Morning. Welcome to the Porter County Board of Commissioners Tuesday, March 14th meeting. Please stand for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Start out with our consent agenda. Melanie?
Approval of payroll, February 17th and March 3rd, 2023. Approval of claims, February 9th, 16th, 23rd, March 2nd, and March 9th, 2023. Approval of minutes for February 7th, 2023. Weights and Measures Monthly Report, December 16th, 2022 to January 15th, 2023 filed, and January 16th to February 15th, 2023 filed.
All right, thank you. We're going to do all these in one motion. Laura, Memorial Opera House, Scott McDonald, Director.
We've got artistic services agreements. We've got one for Lucky Stiff for Benjamin Mahalak, $300. John Peluso, Nonsense, $1,800. Julia Page Thumb, Nonsense, $600. And Jennifer Fenstermaker, $300 also for Nonsense.
The venue agreement.
We have venue rental agreements for Valparaiso Community Band's Memorial Day concert. We waived the fee for that. And Parkview Elementary School Talent Show, $500 at the nonprofit rate.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as well as the Opera House agreements as well.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion approved. Announcements. We had announced, I believe, our first meeting of the year where we are honoring the service of former Sheriff David Reynolds. Due to some personal commitments, he wasn't able to be here, but the Board of Commissioners felt it important to honor Dave and his 16 years, his total of 16 years in the Sheriff's Department, which is very unusual. He was a good sheriff. We'll miss him, but we just wanted to bring that up. But they've already come by and picked up his plaque. So, but we didn't want to fail in mentioning that. Commissioners. And an ordinance creating a non-reverting fund, 8165, for receipt of Valparaiso Lakes Area Conservancy District, Black Hawk Beach Grant, second reading.
So moved on second reading, or motion for approval on second reading.
I second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion approved. We have an ordinance pertaining to public meals update. Mr. McClure.
Yes, we're tracking House Bill 1121 to see how it proceeds through our state legislature, to see what that may or may not turn out to actually prohibit us from doing in its final language, assuming it's passed. And I will keep tracking it and keep the commissioners updated as to the progress.
Is there any reason we shouldn't pass it now?
It would only with the possibility that if the state does pass it, we would be preempted. So it's either pass now and hope they don't, or it's changes in language, or wait to see what they do.
Well, I personally would rather move ahead with it.
Move on with it?
I
All right.
would.
I'll entertain a motion to move on with it.
So moved.
Second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Thank you. And if we need to change it, we got time. We can change it. Contracts agreement for appraisals to lease out space at the sheriff's residence.
You want me to talk about that?
Yes.
Okay. We asked a commercial realtor to come over and walk through the old sheriff's residence with us to determine whether that would be something viable that we could lease out on a longer-term basis. And it does look like that we have the possibility of doing that. In speaking with Attorney McClure, we need 2 appraisals by certified appraisers for what the market value would be. And we would do it as is, which means that whoever is leasing it would have to make the leaseholder improvements. And a couple of things that we realized as we were walking through there, we were noting that there was not a restroom on the first floor, but there actually had been a restroom on the first floor. So it's just a matter of putting the toilet back in, the sink back in, a wall and a door to make that a restroom again. The other thing that the Realtor suggested is that we not have doors on the wood frame, but we have something like a barn door that is attached to the plaster, because that can be repaired, but the wooden framing may not be. And we just did not want to destroy the historical significance of that. We are hoping that as the leaseholder makes those improvements at some point in time, and we will provide a lease abatement, and then at some point in time, as we're actually generating revenue, that we can use that to make other improvements to the property. So I move that we approve the appraisals to lease out the space at the sheriff's residence.
Do we have a second? Second?
So, for discussion,
Sure.
what do you mean by a lease abatement?
So as whatever their expenses are in terms of fixing the walls and everything that they need to do to make it into a workable space, of course, we would have an agreement, and we would have to approve through our facilities department, all
Has
of the
this been in
leasehold.
front of the council yet?
It actually doesn't have to go in front of the council.
Well, most abatements do. I mean, this is not a tax abatement, this is, so it hasn't been in front of the council as far as buy-in? I mean, we don't really have a set plan that's been publicly discussed with the council about the whole Opera House and the expansion yet, right? I mean, doesn't seem like we have agreement on that at this time.
Can I just ask Attorney McClure, he did not indicate that this would be something that we needed to bring in front of the council.
In order to lease out the property, we do not have to take it before the council unless the appraisals come back and the proposed fair market rent produces $25,000 or more a year.
Well, and as far as bringing it in front of the council, I didn't mean that we needed to officially. I just think it's wise to have buy-in when we have these plans on the table for the expansion that includes that building.
Well, I believe that, and correct me if I'm wrong, Barb, that there has been individual conversations, or conversations made with individual board members in regard to this idea, so. But as far as a formal presentation in front of the council, no, that has not happened to my knowledge.
And will we have anything in an agreement that will handle the historical? If we're leaving it to leasers to do the improvements?
That would absolutely be something that we are cognizant of. Mhm. And all those leaseholder improvements would have to be approved in advance, yes. This is just a good way for us to help to maintain that building and to make improvements to that building without having to ask the taxpayers to subsidize that.
But if we rent it out to a private entity, the taxpayers won't be able to visit that building and enjoy the historic.
Well, actually, it's not in use right now. The back portion, which is the old jail, will still be used as the old jail, and the Poco Muse will still offer tours through that portion of that building. That is still absolutely.
But not the residents.
Not the residents, correct.
Okay.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on the floor. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Motion approved. Opioid settlement funds, resolution to fund a police resources and outreach. Sheriff Ballin, could you come up, please? To fund a police resource and outreach coordinator, a PRO, in the Sheriff's Department. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you guys?
Good.
Good.
Could you give us some description of what this position is exactly and what its responsibilities
Yes.
would be?
Absolutely. So, good morning. The Police Resource and Outreach Coordinator is going to be someone that holds a master's degree level that comes in and provides services outside the realm of where the police get involved. And so we're there to identify and connect this person to people that are in need of services for substance dependencies, mental health, homelessness, but it goes bigger than that as well, okay? So this person would go through our daily reports. They would identify children that may have been exposed to a critical incident within their home or some exposure. They would connect with the schools, make sure that child doesn't get lost in the cracks, so to speak. This person would also deal with going through the reports where there's elderly in the community that might need some further assistance, that they would connect those dots from all types of different realms that, where the police can respond, help identify, and then proceed to have our pro coordinator kind of put these people into services that will just help reduce calls for service and just make sure that people are receiving the services they need, that police and fire go to on a regular basis.
So it's to make sure that people are receiving the services that they need.
Yeah,
That have
exactly.
those type of issues, and it's freeing up the police officers to do what they were hired to do.
Absolutely. And, and internally, we also have an internal component as well, because this person will also help kind of further train our officers on how to identify different types of scenarios where people are in crisis. And also, it also will help provide a wellness component to the officers, okay? Because what they say is the average person deals with 5 to 6 traumatic experiences in a lifetime, where public safety personnel deal with that in 1 month. So, in order for our officers and our first responders to be able to help people that are in crisis, we need to make sure that they receive everything that they need and the tools that they need to make these transitions go even smoother.
I think it's a wonderful idea.
And just from a funding perspective, we are estimating that that is going to be $100,000 a year, and that we will be able to fund that with our current anticipated funding for 16 years, including this year.
That's what the numbers show, yes. And that total includes salary, benefits, training, that type of thing that person will need in addition to that.
And all that's coming out of the opioid funds?
Yes.
For the next 16 years?
My understanding was that it was 6 years.
16.
How did you come up with the 16 number? Because the number that we had within the restricted funds is $600,000, which would be 6 years.
How we came up with that number is we added the non-restricted and the restricted, came up with $2.5 million and divided that by 16.
Or you're talking about the money that hasn't come in yet?
Yes.
Okay,
yes, yeah.
because currently we're just talking with what we
Correct.
haven't.
Correct. Okay. Correct. But we do know that
You're
money
both
is.
right.
Thank you.
We do know that money is coming in. So, yeah.
Well, it's a wonderful idea, and I'm glad that you came up with it. I think we're gonna reap some benefits by that, and I think you'll see those benefits very, in short order. So.
Well, it's something that I did at Valpo, and I've seen a big success in it there. And so I feel like it's very
But our
important.
program will be better, though. won't
It-
it?
It's kind of like, we'll build it bigger and better, yes.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
I move to approve.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Thank you,
Thank you.
Sheriff.
Thank you.
Baker Tilly Municipal Advisors proposed bonds of 2023.
This is the company that did our last bond, and so we've asked them to submit a proposal to do this year's bond. So I move that we accept their proposal to do the bond for 2023 for Porter County.
Can we do both at once?
The next
Yeah.
big, yes, we can do those. You can-
And then we have the Baker Tilly Municipal Advisor, Financial Advisor Consulting, and,
Baker Tilly?
yeah.
Baker Tilly also did that for 2021, and we're just asking them to do an update for 2022.
I'll entertain a motion on 5 and 6.
So moved?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion passes. We have a cooperative funding and development agreement between the Porter County Convention Recreation and Visitors Commission and the Porter County Board of Commissioners on behalf of the promotion and development of the Porter County Memorial Opera House.
Can we do this? Can we do all three of these together?
You can.
Okay, and then we have a cooperative funding and development agreement between the Porter County Convention Recreation and Visitors Commission and the Porter County Board of Commissioners on behalf of the promotion and development of the Porter County Expo Center. And we have the same cooperative funding and development agreement between the Porter County Convention Recreation and Visitors Commission and the Porter County Board of Commissioners on behalf of the promotion and development of the Porter County Museum Foundation. Good morning.
Good morning.
How many years have we been doing this?
How many years have we been doing this?
Agreements, yeah.
It's a long time.
Long time, at least 10 years.
Well, I just wanted to express my appreciation. I think these dollars really make the difference for the venues, so I appreciate it.
Lorelei, could you give us, in the audience, an idea of what kind of funds your agency is giving to these other departments?
So for all four of them, it's 150,000 for the year.
Together.
Yeah, together.
Yeah.
That's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money.
All right. Does the board have any questions?
And the fourth one that's not on here because they're not directly under us is the parks.
That's correct.
Correct.
Their
The
own
three you're
board.
being asked to approve are the three over which you have authority,
Right.
responsibility, jurisdiction.
Okay. I'll entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion approved. Thank you. Do you have any questions? You got a big pile of paper. Well, what is it, Dave? This isn't good.
We also have a relationship with the National Park Service in terms of that building. And part of that process includes the approval of a memorandum of understanding with them that's different than the lease, but it delineates our role and responsibility. And we provided that to you guys, and we're asking that, since you own that building, that you approve that MOU this morning. I've reviewed it, and Lorelei has, and it's acceptable to us.
This is just a renewal of that?
That was taken out.
Well, yes, they've been in the building along with us for a
As a
long
lease.
time as well.
We had taken that off the agenda.
Yes, we wanted to take the lease off, but not the MOU. So, okay.
So that'll,
No,
that
no,
will
no
have to
worry.
be put on the next agenda because we don't have that.
Okay. We'll do it.
Oh,
later.
hang on a second.
You want to wait till the 27th to do that?
Is that
We'll be-
important that it's advertised first?
I think it's, at least put it on the agenda at this point, because I don't think all of you even have it in front of you right now.
I do
That's
not.
the problem.
Thank you, guys.
So we'll be back on the 27th with the lease and the MOU.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Recommend Plan Commission to review ordinance number 20-11, Unified Development, in order to potentially repeal or revise. Barb?
We recognize that there might be some liabilities and some deficiencies in our current solar ordinance, and so we are going to refer that to, this is a proposal to refer that to the Plan Commission to potentially repeal it and/or revise it.
Scott, can you give a little bit more background on this as to what it would apply to and what it won't apply to?
Well, I believe that we have some underlying property right issues, that we have a current ordinance was passed. We've had some things happening in the private sector as far as leases and things like that happening. I believe that those fall right now legally under the ordinance. The changes that may be, whether it's by repealing or by amending, the repeal, I think, is a little easier to say that I do not believe that people that are sitting with current leases that are signed would be affected by a repeal of the solar ordinance. I believe that there's a sound argument to be made that they would be under the current, whether it's repealed or not. The repeal and/or amendment that would be added to the ordinance would affect those pieces of property that are not currently under lease with the company at this point in time. I think that's the easiest way to do it. It's a complicated issue, dealing with taking, property rights.
So if I understand what you're saying is that any property owner who has a current signed lease with a solar company, these amendments wouldn't affect that.
Would not necessarily affect them, correct?
Yeah, that to me is somewhat disturbing because, I mean, as we all know that according to NextEra's own admission that, they, for the better part of over 2 years, they were in negotiations with the property owner, and Porter County at the time had not even, we didn't know they were in town doing it. I mean, and right now, and that's my point, is right now, we could have solar companies getting lease, landowners under lease, and even if we pass something next month, it's not gonna apply to them. So we don't, at the end of the day, my point is, we have no idea how many parcels of land, how many acres in this county is under lease without our knowledge, where that land was currently setting. I think that holds us at a huge disadvantage. But the law's the law, it is what it is, I
Well,
guess.
I mean, our solar ordinance goes back to 2020, I believe, or 2021. So under that point, a reading of it has a legal use, and that we weren't party to the leases, so we aren't aware of what leases may or may not be out there. But, depending on the lease, depending on the land, depending on the zoning, those things did not need additional zoning approval. So I think that is, in it lies the crux of the issue. But sending it, I believe what you're attempting to do is send it back to the Advisory Plan Commission to be able to review it for either a repeal or amendment to the terms, and for them to have that set back up as they do, and a recommendation for this board to review and potentially pass.
When is the next Plan Commission meeting?
The 25th, I believe?
22nd, maybe?
22nd, sorry. So, yeah.
I mean, my fear here is that, I mean, this is all, in my opinion, is, I'm drawing from nearly 20 years of experience setting up here, is, this has happened very quickly. And I can't think of a project of this size that has even come close to maturing as quickly as this has. And it's been really difficult on our end to try to get a hold of it, to try to make sense of it. And a big reason that is they came into this county without first coming to us and set these leases up. And now, we could very well be, waking up, 5 or 6 years from now, and the southern part of our county look like something out of a sci-fi movie. That's my fear. But like I said, it is what it is. The law is what it is, and we'll do the best that we can in regard to all of it. So at the end of the day, we're going to follow the law. We're going to be fair. So we're going to look at the existing ordinance, and we're going to recommend amendments where we feel they need to be made in order to get some kind of control of this. Because right now, it's out of control. Okay, does this have to have a,
I think a motion is second to officially send it to Plan Commission.
I move that we refer ordinance number 20-11 Unified Development to the Plan Commission for potential repeal and/or revision.
Second.
all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign, motion approved. Thank you. Recommend Plan Commission to update telecommunicator ordinance in regards to institutional zoning.
Scott?
Scott?
So we've had a few issues come up, and as the telecommunication world continues to modify and change, the telecommunication ordinance was originally written when we were looking at more static, large-sized cell phone towers. That has slowly evolved and changed to things that aren't just cell phone towers, And with those changes, specifically in institutional zoning, when that's normally your schools, your government buildings, things along those lines, we think we need to take a look to make sure that we're not overly constricting the telecommunication equipment that may or may not need to go into those areas. And I think we can look at that particular zoning without necessarily making a wholesale change to the entire ordinance itself. But again, I would, since it's coming out of the Commissioner's office, we just need a motion and a second to send it to the Advisory Plan Commission for them to take a look at it and send up any potential recommendations.
Motion to approve.
I second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion approved. Kurt Ellis's new role. Hey, Kurt.
Speaking of Kurt, at the last council meeting that we were at, we got approval to change Kurt Ellis's title to media specialist. And as a result, we are hoping that we can shift more of Kurt's role to a PR role to tell our story, our county story. And one of the things that we are hoping to accomplish and take board action on today is that the responsibility for maintaining the individual departments' websites will be turned over to the individual departments if they have the ability to do that. And that is basically what we're asking the board today to approve.
Yes, I mean, those who've worked with him, you know Kurt's very talented at what he does, and I just think that this takes better advantage of his talents, put him in this new role. I will entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second. All those in favor say aye.
Wait
Aye.
a minute, we don't have a second, and we didn't
Yeah,
have
I
discussion.
just seconded it.
Well, I didn't hear it.
Well, you got to speak up, Laura. Go ahead.
Well, I was waiting for you to
Okay,
second.
go ahead.
I guess you did it in your head.
Go ahead.
The reason we got to this place with one person doing all of the different websites was so we would have a unified message. It came from one person, and it made a lot of sense. This used to be where we had websites being managed by each individual department, and we had a hodgepodge that wasn't unified and wasn't consistent. So I'm not in favor of going back to this.
And that also was a concern in our conversations, and one of the things that we're going to be doing is that all of the changes have to be approved. They don't just go directly to the website, so they will be approved.
Who's approving them?
The IT department will be approving them. They have a
Okay.
template, there is a template on the website, and there's not a lot of deviation from the template.
Well, I would rather see IT doing IT stuff.
Well, that
This actually is IT.
IT
This
stuff.
actually is IT. stuff.
Websites management, when we're being threatened with privacy hacks and everything else every day.
And that's where that's all managed out
Well,
of.
that's fine. You guys vote yes, and I'll vote no.
Privacy, hacking and privacy issues
doesn't
are
make
not
sense to
managed out of
me.
currently out of Kurt's office, so.
Exactly, and I don't want to
Exactly.
give it to IT, who should be managing hacks, and
They
take
are-
away their
I-
time for something like making
That's what
sure
I-
the colors are right on a website.
That's what I stated. Currently, hacking into our system is managed out of IT.
Yes, and I don't want them to spend their time making sure the colors are correct on our websites.
Oh, I don't think that's what they're looking at. Okay, we had a motion and a second on the floor. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed,
I
same
mean-
sign.
I take my vote back. I'm against this.
Oh, let the record show
Yeah,
that
sorry about that.
Laura's against it. Okay, space needs discussion?
Okay, I wanted to bring to the commissioners' attention some of the work that I've been doing with regard to a number of different departments having additional space needs. It started with the health department, and they have $1 million from the ARPA funds, and they are hoping that they're able to expand their operation. They have 5 different functions within their department, And at the same time, we had the coroner reaching out to us and in an admin meeting, mentioning that they are completely out of space, bursting at the seams, and in fact, they're using some of the space that the health department is hoping to move into. So we took a tour of we asked Sheriff Ballin if he would show us the space that was available over at their facility, thinking that that might be a possibility. It turned out for two reasons that that was not a viable option, in that it did not meet the coroner's needs, and Sheriff Ballin was hoping that he could use that space because he's trying to create some mental health beds within the jail, and in so doing, he needed to move people into those offices that we were considering for the coroner. So then we came back, and one of the requirements for the coroner is to have covered parking. And we started looking at voters' registration to see if there might be a possibility that we could move voters' registration. Now, that is a little complicated to move voters' registration, as we discovered, because when you move voters' registration in the elections department, you also have to have the ability to have early voting, which complicates it. Right now, currently, we have voters' registration, we have early voting in this building. We initially were looking at the courthouse, thinking that that might be an option, because then it would be under the county clerk in the same facility, and that would be beneficial to the county clerk. But we realized that that was going to present its own challenges with having to go through security. We would have to build a restroom, or we were looking at the old probation space on the first floor. And with having to move security, having to put a restroom in that space, and the additional work that would need to be done there, it just didn't seem like that was the best option. So then we looked over at 157 to see if that might be a possibility. And we met with the clerk, Jessica Bailey,
That's the old jail, folks, on, right down the road here.
at 157 Franklin, and it seems like this is really just the perfect solution, because there's very little that we would need to do in the old restaurant space. The one thing that I was concerned about was the kitchen area, and somebody getting hurt with the freezers and refrigerators and the kitchen equipment. But Daniel pointed out that all we have to do is close and lock that door, and they can't get into that area. It also is beneficial in that all of the data drops are there. They already have an office that would function, that could function as their ballot space. From a handicapped area, out the back door, there is a handicap parking space right outside the back door. And outside the front door, not directly in front of that door, but just a little to the north, there's a handicap space. There's possibly a second handicap space, I'm not sure. Two, okay, Daniel's telling me there are two. And then the city parking lot is just kitty corner and to 157 Franklin building, which means that the walk is not a problem. It's probably the same walk if you parked in the garage here and walked in and did early voting. At the lower level, we would be able to have, what do you call that, a cage? Is that? Chain link fence, or a metal cage, and we would be able to house all of their equipment in one spot. And right now, we have equipment in 3 different spots downstairs and in the garage, and that equipment they need to be touching every week to make sure it's still working. They have to turn it on, they have to plug it in, and a lot of that equipment is in the garage where it's cold, and the equipment is degrading over time because it's not able to be temperature controlled, and plus the people that have to go in there and work with that equipment, it's really cold in there during the winter. So in this case, it would be warm, it would be bright, and we could secure that and to whatever extent it needs to be secured, both audio, visual, and visual, as well as from a perimeter perspective. Then in terms of moving into voters registration, the health department also said, is there any way that we could take the space where Veterans Administration is currently? And so we looked to see if we would be able to fit both Veterans Administration and the coroner in that space of voters registration. And just yesterday, I was showing that space to Veterans Administration, and they were really excited because the door would be right by the elevator on the first floor. we could actually swap out doors so they would have the same glass door that they have. I think that would fit there. I'm not sure if those are the same size doors, or we could give them a glass door. Currently, that's the employee-only wooden door. We would just put a wall, a simple wall to separate those. We would have to, two of the offices, we would have to put walls and doors in. But the thing that they were really excited about was that they were going to get that storage room that is currently being used as the ballot room. And they have a number of different things that they need to store in there, and they were really excited about that. So, and the coroner, when she looked at it, Cindy Dyke said that, that just would really be a great option for her. One of the problems that she has right now, in where she's storing her, I hate to say this, body bags and all of her equipment, she has to, when she pulls things out of that room, it's a storage area that's used by other people, and if she even takes one thing out, somebody might put something else in there, and then she doesn't have storage space. So we'll be able to give her own her own storage room where she can keep all of her supplies. So in looking at this is really a win for everybody. Everybody wins in doing these moves. So the health department is going to be able to take that entire space going backwards. Now, in looking at a timeline for this and in talking with our clerk, it appeared that May 3rd would be the ideal date because the election equipment is going to be coming back, and rather than moving that more than once, we would move that right into their new permanent space. And I asked Daniel if we could say, okay, not May 3rd, but let's move it back 3 weeks earlier than that, so that just in case there's any glitches, that we truly are ready for them on May 3rd. As a project manager, I always like to work ahead and make sure we've got enough fluff time in there in case anything goes bad. The other thing that's really good about that is they have a quiet period of 10 days where they can't touch the ballots or anything, so that would be time then for them to move over to 157, and then that would give us the opportunity to build out the space in the former voters registration, so we can move the coroner in, we can move Veterans Administration in, and then, and Daniel will be talking about in a short while, about the plans for doing all of the work in the health department. And so I was hoping to bring that to the commissioners today for approval.
Thank you. Any questions, Laura?
Has parking been addressed over there? Because I know we currently have quite a few problems, and the early voting line is wrapped around the building here sometimes.
I know they're talking, I know that parking, having assigned parking places is the issue that they have over there. That's the issue that they have. But if you look at the city parking lot, just kitty corner, that has adequate parking. I've been over there at several times,
We still haven't come to an agreement with the bank right across from 157. I mean, they're calling us complaining about the parking all the time.
Well, when we were over there, Daniel has about 10 signs, and we've asked the sheriff to talk to his sheriff's deputy to encourage people not to be parking there. And so I don't know if they're still having the issue, but I was just there, and it's like plastered on every wall, every window about not parking over there. But I don't think that we're going to have early voters defying parking orders, so. Did you want to say something?
If I could.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Those are really good questions, and there are things that we did throw into that consideration. Just readjusting parking, yes, parking for both parking for the public that would be coming in for early voting.
Could you speak into the mic?
Sure, sure.
Thank you.
There's the parking lot that is to the southwest that could be used. It's pretty well open during the day. That could be used for early voting people when they're coming in there, as well as the street parking. And then right now there isn't already enough parking for staff at 157, so that is a concern. That would be another 4 cars that would have to be using the parking lot that is to the northeast, more east-northeast over there, which is where a lot of them are parking now. And if that isn't sufficient, we could also have some folks still parking at the admin garage here a couple blocks away.
It's a long way for voters to walk
From
here.
Oh, yeah, not for here, I meant for staff, is what I'm
No,
talking
we're just
about,
talking
yeah.
staff.
No, I feel very comfortable with the early voting distance that they had to walk, honestly. It's literally kitty corner, but all good points.
And that parking doesn't get full.
I haven't seen it full.
I haven't seen it full either.
Yeah. I've been over there a lot, as you mentioned, because of those issues with the First Source Bank and keeping track of that and seeing how that's going.
Who owns that parking lot?
It's public, City of Valparaiso.
City of Valpo. Have we talked to them
About,
about using that parking, or how, if they have
How it would
any
affect-
future
no.
plans for that space before we move into it?
no, at
Well,
least I
we
haven't.
would do that, we wanted to get approval first before we,
Well, I think you've done a wonderful job. You've done a lot of work here. Thank you very much. But I do have some of Laura's concerns as well, and about the parking. Let's get that, let's get that in concrete.
Firmed up, mhm.
Yeah, get it all tied up, and then move ahead with, with approving the project at its whole. But I would like, before we approve the project in its whole,
Yeah.
I gotta be comfortable with, we have this parking problem. We don't wanna mess with these voters.
Sure.
We don't wanna do that. So if we could do that, we could, get that all tied up and bring it back to the Board of Commissioners in this next meeting, and, then we'll move on from there.
Okay,
Okay?
sounds good.
Thanks.
Back in a bit.
But great, thank you for the work. Let's see here. Yeah, Sheriff Ballin, please. We have an ordinance creating a non-reverting fund for receipts of proceeds from the Adult Community Corrections Grant for the Porter County Jail, the first reading.
Hello again.
Hi.
All right. Well, I'll explain it, and Kathy can follow up with a better explanation. But essentially, we're here to request a second account opened up for the DOC grants. That way, it keeps kind of the money separate. One deposit can go into this account, the following year another one. It's just to kind of keep for better housekeeping and accounting.
I believe it boils down to just odd year, even year.
Right.
For auditing purposes.
Right.
Yep.
Okay,
Anything else on that
No,
one?
it was
Okay.
at the request of the Department of Corrections.
okay.
Motion to approve on
I
first
second.
reading.
Wait, we have to do first reading. You have to open it up for a public hearing.
Oh, yeah,
oh, okay.
I forgot. Nobody ever says anything on these.
We're going to open it up for discussion,
Public hearing.
or public hearing, rather. So we'll start out with, anybody would like to speak in opposition of this ordinance? Or, excuse me, not ordinance, ordinance. Anybody would like to speak in opposition of the ordinance? Last call, anybody wanting to speak in opposition to the ordinance? Okay, closed. Anybody would like to speak in favor of the ordinance? Then you don't have to say anything. Anybody would like to speak in favor of the ordinance? Last call, anybody would like to speak in favor of the ordinance? Close the hearing.
Now I'll make my motion to approve on first reading.
I second the motion.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion approved. You can just stay there. You got quite a bit on here. We have a request to extend time off for a sheriff's officer who's been ill.
Yes, and we have been giving him duties to, while he's at home recuperating, different tasks that has really seemed to help us streamline some tasks within the sheriff's department. So I would ask that we extend that. He's recuperating well.
Probably good for this, too, that he's
Yeah.
getting something
Yeah.
to do. Yeah.
Motion to approve.
I second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion approved. And North Shore Health Centers, Inc., an agreement to provide substance abuse services for 1 year.
It's an annual contract that we sign with them. They provide mental health, substance dependency counseling and services within the jail.
It's $106,000 for the year and 12 equals installments.
Motion to approve.
I second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion approved. Utility and agreement for a 5-year renewal for body cameras in the amount of $599,900.
Yes, this also, in addition to the body cameras, They have it syncs with the in-car cameras, provides us with GPS locations, things like that. So it's just something we've done. This is just a 5-year contract, is how we do it, and I'm requesting that extension.
Has that been built into your budget?
Yeah.
Okay.
For this year, we did just discuss at the council meeting 2 weeks ago that this year it's going to be paid for out of our seizure money, and
Okay.
we will address it annually.
So you have all that buttoned up?
Yeah.
And there's also a significant discount within this contract because it is a multi-year agreement. It's
Okay.
over $140,000 in the discount, so.
Motion to approve.
I second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion approved. Canteen services, an agreement for inmate meals for 4 years with a 1-year renewal option.
Yeah, we chose to go with the current vendor. We did outside bids to make sure that we were being cost effective and, what that looked like. The current company that we use also came in with the best bid. They were very agreeable, and they worked with us very diligently and during COVID to make some adjustments. The contract expired December 31st. Of last year, but they were also working with us not to increase the prices until we came to you with that contract. So we're very happy with the services that they provide us.
Scott, is this something you look at as well?
It is, and I also want to point out that they're part of the commissioner's policies of dealing with elected officials is that the contracts don't overlap into the next administration, which is why the last agreement finished December 31st to allow the potential for the next leadership to make a decision and take a look at the situation. So I think this is an example where it worked well. We may end up staying with the same place, but that's after, in your case, the new sheriff has had an opportunity to look at what they're providing and decide whether that's something to continue with. So, but yes, I have reviewed it and I don't have any issues with it. I think it's good timing, and it also has the 1-year renewal option. So if there was a change in leadership after that, there is an option that if something's going on to go ahead and patch another year on without causing an issue. So I think this is exactly what we're looking for. Okay.
I move that we approve the canteen services agreement.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion approved.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ronnie Gunn, HR Department. We have a Maxwell Leadership Training Proposal for Porter County to strengthen and grow influential leadership.
Yeah, I received 3 quotes for manager training for our department heads and make it mandatory of the ones that fall under the commissioners and invite the elected officials or their office managers. Both of them, well, I got 3. There's 2 that I really like. One was recommended from GIS. That is the strategic management. I've had conversations with her. She, part of her presentation is she takes pages from our handbook and she talks to me a couple of times to find out what our issues and our problems and how she can help with that and research that. The other one I liked also was the Maxwell Leadership, Deb Warpel? WAPEL. The difference of that one is more generalization, is how to become a great leader. I think maybe down the road we can do that one, but at first I think we need to take the steps to show the managers what the problems is and how to foresee those problems and nip them in the bud before they get to be big problems.
So this isn't a case of they having a problem and then bring them to her.
No.
Him. This is, they'll be holding what? Yeah. 2-hour symposiums, whatever, on each subject matter.
Yeah, she's going to go over like what is retaliation and how you speak to your employees and bullying and like, really drive it down. And what is favoritism? You may not think you're doing favoritism, but other people do see that. So it's more about morale and showing them the definitions of what could be bigger problems.
Okay. That's a great idea.
I think that'll be very helpful.
Very
I'll make
helpful.
a motion to accept the quote by Strategic Management.
Do we have a second? Second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those
Aye.
opposed, same sign. Motion approved. Thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a very good program for us. Clerk? Jessica Bailey? We have a VR Systems election learning management system license and maintenance agreement for online poll workers training in the amount of $20,698. Is that for 2 years? Okay.
We are looking at VR systems to further give options for poll worker training. A lot of times we're up to the grind and hiring people to be poll workers the very last minute and hoping that they can attend one of 2 classes. This would alleviate that, and in addition, it would give a portal for all the poll workers to be able to revisit different videos and trainings. So if they went to one of the beginning classes, they'd be able to refresh before the election.
I think,
Yeah.
that- I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea, because we, as you know, when these past elections, because everything's moving so quickly, and everybody has a job to do, and then they also have this job to do, they had this job to do as well. And because, people are human, and some things get lost in the translation, and you only find out later as the election's going on that, oh, we forgot to tell them this, or oh, we forgot to tell them that. And this kind of, I think it's a very, very much more of an organized way to approach it. I just wish it was free, but it is.
Yeah.
Us too.
Can poll workers only do the online training, or do they is this more of a backup?
No, we'll be offering both.
But they can pick one or the
They
other?
can pick one or the other.
So I guess I just have a question. Are there any quizzes or anything built into
Yep,
this?
there's
Okay.
quizzes, and we actually can track where and see where they are in the process, if they started, if they finished, how they did on the quiz, where they had problems, and we can see that as a whole. So we'll be able to take all of those evaluations and say, okay, people really struggled with this component, and then give more training or different training or enhance the training.
And Jessica, if somebody does an in-person training, they could also use this as a refresher.
Exactly.
It's your idea? No,
It's a group idea.
it's a great idea.
Thank you.
I entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion approved. Thank you. E911, Debbie Gunn, recognizing April 9th through April 15th, 2023 as National Public Safety Telecommunications Week. Hi,
Hi,
how are you today?
I'm well. How are you? This is just our annual recognition of a week that we celebrate dispatchers here in Porter County and nationwide. And just a reminder to our community, to the commissioners, that it's just a special week where we kind of flourish our dispatchers with attention, and it's just a special recognition.
Are you going to read it?
Certainly. Recognizing April 9th, 2023 through April 15th, 2023 as National Public Safety Telecommunicators Week. Whereas emergencies can occur at any time that require police, fire, or emergency medical services, and whereas when an emergency occurs, the prompt response of police officers, firefighters, and paramedics is critical to the protection of life and preservation of property, and whereas the safety of our police officers and firefighters is dependent upon the quality and accuracy of information obtained from citizens who telephone Porter County Central Communications, and whereas public safety telecommunicators are the first and most critical contact our citizens have with emergency services, and whereas public safety telecommunicators are the single vital link for our police officers and firefighters by monitoring their activities by radio, providing them information and ensuring their safety, and whereas public safety telecommunicators of Porter County Central Communications have contributed substantially to the apprehension of criminals, suppression of fires, and treatment of patients, and whereas each dispatcher has exhibited compassion, understanding, and professionalism during the performance of their job in the past year, therefore be it resolved that the Board of Commissioners of Porter County declares the week of April 9th, 2023 through April 15th, 2023 to be National Public Safety Telecommunicators Week in the County of Porter in honor of the men and women whose diligence and professionalism keep our county and citizens safe.
I'll entertain a motion to recognize April 9th through April 15th as the National Public Safety Telecommunications Week.
So moved.
Gladly second.
Thank you very much.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion approved.
Thank you.
Thank you, Deb. Auditor Karen Martin, Gabriel's Horn Corporation, ARPA agreement.
In front of you, you should have the contract with reference to Gabriel Horns, which is located on McCool Road. They have a total amount of $270,000. They will be using this money for the expansion and remodel of the current facilities, including additional bedrooms, bathrooms, a new kitchen, family dining, and common areas, and also additional staff to run the facility.
And if the audience isn't familiar with it, these are the monies that, pandemic funds that were distributed by county government that last fall.
Yeah.
Jeez. Scott, do we need a motion to
Yes.
approve this?
So moved.
I second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion approved. Thank you, Karen. Health Department, Sheila Paul, Director, a grant agreement between the Indiana Department of Health and the Porter County Health Department in the amount of $26,914.50.
So yeah, this is just a grant that we applied for in, excuse me, sorry, in '21. It is to help cover the cost of our lead case management. A lot of you may not be aware, but the acceptable lead case levels has dropped from 10 micrograms per deciliter down to 3.5. They have also required that all children be tested for lead poisoning, not just children on Medicaid. So we have already seen our caseload jump significantly from about 1 a month to about 15 a month. So this is just money to help offset the cost of that, and we will submit an invoice to the state, and then they will reimburse us for our actions on it.
And what's causing the jump?
They have just decided to lower the acceptable level within a child's blood for lead poisoning.
So that's what caused the jump.
Correct.
But otherwise, the levels have been going down, haven't they? Didn't you just?
So I guess, are you asking, have we seen an increase in lead exposures within Porter County? Not necessarily. There's just a decrease in the acceptable amount of lead within the blood.
Okay. Entertain a motion.
So moved.
I second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion approved.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Animal Shelter, Darren Biggs, Director. A consulting agreement with Tony Bianchi in the amount of $65 per hour.
Good morning.
Morning.
So yes, I'd like to be able to utilize her services as not only a professional dog trainer, but as a professional canine consultant. When it comes to animals that have behavioral issues, we need to be able to determine whether or not they are safe to be placed back in the community. And that is where her expertise would come in.
Did we add a not to exceed on this, Scott?
I don't believe we have a not to exceed.
Her services are as needed. Obviously, every month is situational, but at this point, I have not had to bring her in.
Well, this is not the first contract we've had.
No, we did this last
And
year.
I think we spent less than $500 all year long on it, so I'm not concerned about it exceeding anybody's number, any number that somebody had in their head, but
She does a good job,
She
and
does a very
I don't
good-
want
she
to
does
put
a very good
dangerous
job.
animals back
Yeah.
into the community, that's for
Neither do
sure.
I.
it's better than having to hire somebody to do it.
Motion to approve.
I second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Thank you, Darren.
Thank you.
Expo Center, Lori Daly, Frank Paul Entertainment, a musical service agreement for Saturday, April 1st, 2023, at 8:30 PM in the amount of $2,000.
Good morning.
Morning.
We're doing a Jimmy Buffett tribute concert, so this is the band.
Now, where does the proceeds go?
Directly to the expo revenue.
Oh, it goes to Expo revenue?
Correct.
After the band split?
Correct.
That'd be pretty popular.
Yeah, we did one, Bob Seger in the fall, and it went over very well.
I don't remember that.
Yeah, it was good.
Nobody tells me that. Entertain a motion to approve.
I move to approve.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion approved.
Thank you.
Thanks. Memorial Opera House, Scott McDonald, Voice Systems, a maintenance agreement providing support services for the accounting system in the amount of $1,180. The term shall begin May 1st, 2023, and end April 30th, 2024.
Yes, good morning. This is what we use for Key Ledger, which allows us to input our expenses into public record. This is an annual contract that we renew every year.
And Key Ledger's a state requirement.
Correct. State Board of Accounts approved it.
Motion to approve.
I second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion approved. Thank you.
Thank you.
IT Department, Lee Childers. We have a Comcast 2-year agreement for a line at 700 North, which has come up for renewal in the amount of $199.95 per month.
That's our internet fee, internet access for 700 North.
Can I do both of these, Scott, at the same time? Or no?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
Just make sure you're just clear that we're doing both.
Okay. And then we have a Conference Technologies, a revision of the proposal signed last year to update the audio technology in the chamber in the amount of $109,039.29. And for whatever, that's all of this. That's why y'all don't hear us very well, because this system is really, it's old and it's breaking.
This is for the proposal that you signed last fall. We submitted it to the auditor's office. The auditor's office kicked it back and said the language of the proposal didn't fit the ARPA requirements. So we worked with their legal department, our legal department, and I think we're good now. And the price did not change in this current contract.
Yeah.
Okay. I move to,
Second.
We have a motion and a second on the floor. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign.
Do we need to indicate, because I jumped the gun, that we're including both?
Yeah.
I move to approve both the
We're including
Comcast
both,
and the
so-
Conference Technologies.
Second.
Thank you.
Okay, well, I'm going to do this again. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion approved. Thanks. Facilities, Daniel Sullivan.
Yeah.
Seeking an RFP for architectural design professionals to support the facilities director in expanding the health department's main office at the administration building.
I'm not going to blame Lee's microphone system for my quiet voice. I'll just speak a little louder this time. Yes, first one is we're seeking an RFP for architecture design. Basically, I want to send an advertisement out to several local entities to help me to design the project as well as plan for budget, the scheduling of that sort of thing. As you've heard Barb talk about, it's a multi-layered event right now. So they'll make sure we stay in compliance with everything, including parking. Good point. By the way, correction, there is in fact one parking spot in front of the, on the street there in front of 157 Franklin. So looking for that kind of thing would be great.
Okay, so this is something evidently out of your expertise. That's why you wouldn't bring someone like this in.
Yes, I would say so. Tools and techniques at this point, you know, that they're going to have the stuff to make actual construction drawings and that sort of things. That would be just be better served outside my time.
And you're recommending an RFP, not an RFQ?
RFP could include RFQ, you know, make sure they have the qualifications. I would actually have an RFP drawn up that would basically say these are the things I expect you to do.
I think it'd be better an RFP.
Okay, yeah.
That's okay.
But I would ask that the commissioners approve that RFP.
Right.
Okay, sure, the wording of it.
I think we're at the stage of we want an RFP, but we're not to the stage of there is an RFP.
Right.
Yes, exactly.
All we're doing here is announcing we will accept RFPs for this work.
Okay, sounds good.
Proposals. And then this board will review them.
No.
No.
He needs to put the RFP together.
Yeah, Commissioner Biggs, I don't think we have it in words yet.
Correct.
Oh, you have it written?
Mostly written.
Almost written.
Yep.
All right.
Actually, I had the question yesterday whether we needed that here today or not, and we were going to try and get it in, but we just didn't have enough time.
Yeah, so we could certainly, I can give the wording to you to see what you think, and if you have any thoughts on it before we put it out for advertisements.
Yeah, that's mandatory. That has to go to the county attorney
Oh, got it, okay.
after you get done. And then we'll just deal with it the next meeting?
But yeah,
Okay,
I
sure.
think you guys, if you want to, you can do a motion and a second vote to inform him to put it together and to get it onto the next meeting.
All right, so moved. I'll need a second. for that.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Then emergency approval for a single source to repair 3 windows at 157 Franklin Street.
Yeah, there's been some late-breaking discussion on this one, so I'm not sure we're actually still requesting an emergency approval, but basically to move quickly on this project so we can make sure we get it done this summer. Even as of this morning, I went out there to count how many windows we have that already have had the lintels replaced on the 157 Franklin building, so to try to narrow down about what the cost would be. The issue out there right now is that we have intermittent problems. You know, intermittent problems are hard to determine the emergency. It may well be that we'll have a good amount of water coming into a window or above a window. And from what I've heard before I started 6 months ago, there was such an event in one room on the 3rd floor there.
And how
which
did we deal with it then?
I don't know, but what I was told was that it was enough to soak the carpet. I could tell you the carpet had not been replaced. It was the same carpet that was in the hallway. So apparently it had been cleaned enough there, which isn't unusual on a concrete
It's
floor.
not continuing to leak.
Hasn't continued to leak since then,
So we
correct.
should probably figure out, since it was just one window, instead of,
Actually,
It was 3 windows. That was.
but I mean,
yeah.
it's not, what I read was we needed to purchase 5 windows to fix 2, and
Yeah, the proposal I have, yeah, which is the first proposal, yes, would request that it would be 5.
so it
Which
was less than 5 that got repaired.
there actually haven't been any repaired since.
But it's not leaking anymore? I mean,
It hasn't leaked,
something's-
since, but that's because of the wind direction and that sort of thing. So if we had a steady rain out of the west for exactly as much time as there was back in, whenever this was, sometime between before July of 2022, I presume we would have a leak in that window. It all depends on how long the water soaks into the brick. The water then gets inside the brick, runs down to the lintel and finds its way to or the lack of lintel, and finds its way to the window is how it's working.
Have we gotten a lift and had any of our guys look at it from the outside? And
No,
see
but that is actually, looking at I actually met with these folks who the proposal that I sent to you all by email, I talked with them back in October or November, when I first was exploring this. And that is actually part of their plan. The proposal.
What about our guys? I mean, though, just for something temporary, so we don't have to wait and
Yeah.
have water keep leaking in.
There's nothing they could really do, frankly, because it's not like there's a hole they could caulk or something in this case. This is a case where water is getting into the brick itself, wicking through the brick and inside the brick, then running down inside the wall to above the window. So the only thing you could actually do is to kind of seal the brick from the outside, which is not something we would want to do visually. And right now, I don't think it's necessary.
All right, but if we get another event,
I'll be there.
well, I'm just,
Yeah.
all kidding aside. if
No, understood.
We get the wind coming out of the west again and a couple of day rain, and that gets worse. And that's why I was kind of surprised you saying that it wasn't an emergency situation. We have a problem there we haven't identified.
Do any of our guys remember how we handled the event before you got here?
I haven't asked the guys, to be honest with you. I did do a search of emails of my predecessor, or the emails I have of 3 years of Tracy Wood, the former coordinator, and there was very little mention of it.
Well, we must have handled it internally then, so I would ask them.
I can, yeah. I think it was probably handled in some other places as well, but yeah, I can certainly talk to them and see what they've done about it.
And keep us, Daniel, keep us abreast of what's going on there. I'm speaking for myself, I'm not comfortable, waiting around till next summer or this summer to do something about that, because we live in Northwest Indiana.
Yeah. Yeah, my only
It's on a dime.
I hear you. My only concern with jumping too fast is that if we fix those ones, we could have other ones leak, so, and that could still happen, if we make a
Hopefully there's
guess.
a temporary fix we can figure out.
Potentially, yeah. Okay,
But you'll keep us up to date on
I
that.
will, yeah.
Thank you. ABM Building Solutions, a memorandum of understanding for preliminary assessments.
Yes, Commissioners, I'm asking for approval of a memo of understanding with ABM Building Solutions, and I have Eric Dustin here with me, who is from ABM Building Solutions. Do you have any questions for him? We talked to him last month as well, and there was a request to update and change the language of that MOU to limit it to lighting, HVAC, and building envelope. We added building envelope issues later, which is a fair amount of what they'll be looking at. This preliminary survey, which will produce a report within 60 days, is no cost to us. It's basically all risk to them to do a walkthrough. The main cost to us is my time, as well as those who we walk the buildings with, that we do the tours of. We'll look at 5, 6, 7 of our key, most needed buildings, and I think now we'll add 157 Franklin as well, because there may be things there that we can say, hey, if we upgrade the lighting here or the HVAC systems there, we can save money here that can fund that project. We've got one proposal for that right now to show us estimated costs.
And then the other thing is you can take a look at the windows as you're looking at the building envelope for 157 Franklin, correct? Can you just speak to that real quick?
Absolutely. So part of the building envelope is really anywhere that we could lose energy or infiltration, so the cold, the weather can get in. So that includes, generally, windows are going to be the key component, and doors.
Roof, windows, and skin.
Yep, absolutely. So we can look at those as needed too. We have thermal imaging that we can do as well, so you can tell where insulation may be wet, soaked, all of the above. Absolutely.
Yeah, there is actually one place out there that I haven't investigated the roof yet, so it'd be interesting to see if you can see there. There has been a report of occasional minor leak above in the ceiling tile on the 4th floor. So that's one thing he might be able to tell too, with drones flying above and such.
There's no such thing as an occasional leak. It's either leaking or it's not.
Well, it's intermittent.
One of my least favorite words in this business.
Okay, we'll need a,
I move that we approve the MOU for ABM.
do you have a second? Second? All those in favor, do you have anything to say, Laura?
No, I said what I had to say last time.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Motion approved.
Thank you.
Highway Department. Jim's in road school, Mr. Polaric, the director, requesting liquid material bituminous bid for the chip and seal program for 2023. Is there anybody here representing the Highway Department at all? No? I think they're all at road
They're
school.
at road school, yeah.
Do we?
So, yeah, so he's asking for a bid for liquid materials bituminous for the chip and seal program.
So all we need is a motion and a second to approve him being able to put that out for bid on the liquid material bituminous for chip and seal projects for 2023.
So moved. Got a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion approved. Development and Stormwater Management, Bob Thompson. Morning.
Good morning.
Let you just start out here. You've got 8 pieces of business here. We'll just go down the line with them.
Sure. The first one is seeking sealed bids. This is for Bridge 40. Mistake on the agenda. It should be 1,000 south over Reeves Ditch project. This is under design right now. Their design is complete. They're working on contract documents. We're just now requesting approval to go forward with sending out and requesting for sealed bids.
Hey, Bob, can I just ask you a question? How do you decide when it's a sealed bid versus a non-sealed bid? What makes this a sealed bid situation?
Correct me if I'm wrong. If it goes over $100,000,
Yeah, so it's determined by state statute, for public works projects. Any project that's over $150,000 in estimated contract value has to be awarded via the bid process. The commissioners some years ago as well passed a responsible bidders ordinance that for any project over $250,000 then has to meet the county's responsible bidders ordinance requirements as well. So it's all dictated by state statute.
Go ahead.
Should we vote on that one?
Yeah, we have to.
Motion to approve.
I second the motion.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion approved. Bridge 130, go ahead, Bob, just.
All right, Bridge 131, now this is different. Bridge 40 is all local funded. Bridge 131, this is going to be through NDOT, and this has federal fundings on it. We are asking for the plan approval on this to go down to NDOT, so that way NDOT can then seek the bids for it.
Entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion approved.
AT&T agreement for relocating fiber optic. This is for Bridge 1009. This is in the city of Portage, since we maintain all bridges within the incorporated areas too. Bridge 1009, this is on Lindbergh Road over Salt Creek. AT&T has an existing fiber optic, and this agreement is for moving this fiber optic so that way it will not interfere with our bridge construction. Bridge construction should be happening next year.
Motion to approve.
I second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion approved. Number 4.
This is for Bridge 1014. It's on North Calumet over CSX Railroad. Again, this is another locally funded project. We're dealing with some deck issues on this particular bridge. Went through the letter of interests that were submitted here to the office, and we have a recommendation for a consultant on this particular design, and that would be DOZ.
Okay.
Motion to approve.
I second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion approved. Number 5.
This is for our bridge inventory and inspections. We have to have our bridges inspected every 2 years, and for those that are in poor condition, every year. We're up for a new contract on this. This is managed through NDOT again with federal funding, and we went through the letter of interests that were submitted into the office, and we're recommending United Consulting for this particular job.
Have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion approved. Go ahead, Bob. 6.
This is Calumet Trail, phases 1 and 2. This is going to be let by NDOT shortly, I think in April on this, and we have to hire a consultant for the purposes of doing construction engineering or construction inspections during this work. And we review the, again, letter of interests that were submitted to this, and we're recommending the Lockmuller Group for this one.
Motion to approve.
I second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion approved. Number 7.
An ordinance for land use and overlay for the Willow Creek Road project. Discussion here on this. I mean, we had originally talked about doing a land use plan on that, or an overlay ordinance, which really would govern the land use on that. I guess in our point, we're probably going to recommend going forward with the ideal of a overlay of the ordinances for this, and looking at the path.
Are you looking at a half a mile or a mile?
We can go out as far as you want. I mean, we were going to propose, let's just go ahead and look at a mile.
Okay.
Now, will this be concentrated on the recommended path?
On the recommended path, yes.
Okay.
And it would go from 700 north down to US 30.
And just for clarity, are we talking a mile on each side of the road, or are we talking a mile total?
I would recommend let's do a mile on each side of the road.
That's a pretty big distance, a mile east side of the road.
It is. I know a lot of your overlay ordinances that we've had done in some areas, the actual ordinance may not have effect for a quarter mile each side of the center line of the road. Some cases, we have gone up to a half mile. Realizing there's concerns out there, we'll investigate the mile.
Do we have any idea at this time what the costs are going to be involved in doing this study?
My estimate is probably going to be at least 150,000, maybe even up to 200,000 for this.
And so I would assume if we're going to spend $200,000 that we would make sure we had the route that is viable and agreed upon first.
Correct. I mean, you also asked me to do the 149. Do you want me to discuss that?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
All right. We looked at that as far as an option, and a number of issues. We went to the NERC, the Regional Corridor study that they do have out on this. And the whole idea with the Regional Corridor study, and it was done in 2016, was the main goal of the study is to improve mobility and connectivity by providing new connections. These connections also contribute to reducing congestion and travel times in the region, right? As I mentioned, it's improving connectivity between major activity centers, high density of retail, industrial, commercial, and institutional sites is what they were really looking at on this. They took the three-county area, Lake, Porter, and the Poor counties, and they came up with 22 connections that they felt would meet these goals. And then they went through and they did an evaluation of it. There was 10 criteria that they put down on this that they wanted to look at, and that was the location of the particular linkage to already congested areas. Has the regional impact been determined? They were going to determine the regional impact by a transportation model. Also, location to an area with significant crashes. Improves connectivity in urbanized areas. Improves connectivity to major highways. Located in high-density population. Neither Willow Creek nor 149 scored on that point, nor on the next point, which was located in high-density employment areas. Located within a 2-mile radius of high-density retail, and provide better connection to transit and rail centers and potential impacts to the environment. Those are the 10 criteria that they used on this, and they pulled out a lot of census information, and they had a group study sessions on all of this. Willow Creek Road came out number 3 priority in the region. It has a score of 83, and I think the number 1 had a score of 86. 149 connection was 21 out of 22. And why did 149 not score well? It proved that it did not have a regionally significant impact if it were to be constructed. With the model, it did not improve connectivity to urbanized areas. Does not provide better connections to transit and rail. And does not connect high-density population and employment areas or retails. Willow Creek met all of those that I just read that 149 did not do. And why? I mean, Portage built a 4-lane road basically heading south out of a high-density area, residential, high employment area, and a high retail area, right down to 700 North. And that is only a 21-foot wide road. 700 North heading west from the existing Willow Creek Road has almost the same ADT as 149 does down by 130. Their
average daily travel.
Average daily traffic, excuse me. Thank you, Scott. So, the next thing we wanted to look at, can we move the funding from Willow Creek over to 149? The answer to that is yes, we could, but there's a process for it. And in that process, and it's at NERC, we could be told no. And
NERC could tell us no.
NERC could tell us no. So, but we can still put in an application in it, on that. So, and the main reason why is because they did the regional corridor study. Willow Creek, number 3, 149, 21 out of 22. With that, we would have to put in a brand-new application to be able to do that to NERC. Any funding that was spent on Willow Creek right now, which is $800,000, will have to be paid back to NERC to be able to go over and use 149. So there was one big hurdle in front. We would also have to start all new NEPA document with the 149 on that, and we would have to consider Willow Creek as a no-build option. Plenty of big problems with the new NEPA document because of the fact of the floodplains of Salt Creek, the wetlands with Salt Creek, and the environmental impacts it would take. The mitigation to be able to go across those floodplains and the wetlands with the bridge will be huge for the county to be able to do that. I think with the NEPA document, you're giving now all of a sudden Federal Highway the opportunity to say no, because we've started Willow Creek.
And that's, just so people are clear, it's no because they now know we have a better route. We just don't want to take it. Am I reading that right?
Correct.
Okay.
Well,
Because
but to be clear, it's two separate projects. Willow Creek Road was established in the corridor study, the extension of Willow Creek Road was established in that corridor study as a necessary linkage, right? So was 149, or at least evaluated as a necessary linkage. So it's two separate projects, and the traffic data, the congestion we're dealing with in northern Union Township, that's a driver for the Willow Creek Road project. An extension of 149 wouldn't address those existing issues in any way.
It's not serving what Federal Highway would look at as being the purpose of need.
Well, what it sounds like to me is we could consider it, but there's not going to be any funds to develop it.
NERC could say no, and I was kind of privately told by somebody that the group, that's the board that oversees, when they look at us turning away from Willow Creek to number 3 and going to 149 as the number 22, or number 21 out of 22, that the group will tell us no.
Right, because we're competing with all those projects on that list. So if we go from 3 to 21 out of 22, it's very likely we don't get any funding. Plus, we got to pay back almost $1 million that we've already taken from them.
Yes.
So, and that's what I'm saying is it just sounds like, we can either move forward judiciously with what we currently have, what we put a lot of time in and a lot of study in, or we can throw it out or try to throw it out and cross our fingers and hope we fall on what, $20 million? You got 2,000 linear feet of bridge that has to be constructed on 49, from my understanding, if we were to extend 149.
Currently, what we have at NERC is $6 million for the construction and the completing the NEPA for Willow Creek now. And there's a resolution that was approved by the boards looking at it, getting us $10 million in funding to do the Phase 2, which is the bridges, and that is 2029.
But that's on the recommended route.
That's on the recommended route, correct.
The number would be significantly different if we were to just hypothetically move out to 149.
Yes.
There's what, 2 or 3,
We may not see any of that.
right? Yeah, that's my point. And then we don't solve the problem. So, but,
Sorry,
go ahead.
I thought you were done. Do we have any new information since the expo meeting? I'm hearing a lot of stuff that we already knew, but is there anything new to learn about the 149 extension option?
well, I thought what he.
I think just that Bob put his seer hat on, right, and trying to read the tea leaves here in terms of fundability of that project. And I think that's what Bob really spent time investigating and putting together the background for you here this morning as well.
Well,
But-
I think a significant amount of what Bob spoke about was new information. We weren't, I was not aware of having to go back to NERC, and it's not likely that NERC is going to find favor of this. And I wasn't, and we weren't clear on whether or not we had to pay that money back. And now we know,
We will.
so. But I appreciate it. Do you have anything to add there?
No.
Okay. Number 8?
So wait a second, do we want to do something with the overlay? At this point, for the preferred route?
Well, I guess if you want me to go forward with this, then a motion to request that I go out for RFQs
Or quotes?
or quotes.
Quotes. Entertain a motion.
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Well, are we sure of the route and that it's happening? I don't want to spend $200,000 on nothing. We already have a lot of money out there that might be on nothing.
But what would you recommend then, Laura?
Making sure we've picked the route and
I thought we already have the route. We have the preferred
I thought
route, which is
yeah, I thought that
A1.
there was a primary route identified.
well, there is, but I don't think that was made known to the public really.
Well, I disagree with that. I think the public is
Okay.
well aware what that recommended route is. That's what's a cause of a lot of the contention, is that they are aware of it. Some of them don't agree with it.
All right.
I'll second it. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion approved.
Number 8, this is a performance agreement and guarantee for senior living at St. Andrews. They are completing construction. They're getting close to the wanting to have a recorded plat for this particular development. I was going to ask Mike to explain what this is.
I think you did, but there comes a time in every subdivision's life where the developer reaches substantial completion of the necessary public improvements, roads, sanitary sewer, water, stormwater, and they're ready to apply to the Plan Commission for secondary plat approval. That's the point at which this project's at. So they've submitted to the department the necessary performance agreement that essentially says we're going to finish any remaining public improvements and we promise to address any operational and maintenance items that might come up, and along with that, a performance guarantee, so a financial guarantee that if they don't do those things that they said they were going to, that the county has some method of recourse to get those things done. So that's what's in front of the board this morning is that performance agreement and guarantee for approval.
I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion approved. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Alicia Brown, Extra Mile Fitness Company. We have a request in front of the commissioners to use county roads located in Jackson Township for the 3rd annual What the Hill Half Marathon on Sunday, May 14th, from 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. I'm going to need a little more time than that to finish that.
You got 2 months. We do this every year.
The event will begin and end at Coffee Creek Watershed Preserve in Chesterton.
Motion to approve.
I second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion approved.
Well, thank you.
We come to the portion here, is there any other matter which may properly come before the Board of Commissioners?
I just wanted to clarify the date of our next meeting,
Okay.
since I can't be here.
What is the date of our next meeting? I don't have it in front of me.
March 27th.
24th.
March
27th,
27th.
Sorry. I leave the 24th.
Is there anything on that that agenda, Laura, you'd like us to hold?
I have
hold
no
off?
idea what's on that agenda at this time.
I don't either.
Well, we'll just, anything of any major importance, we'll just hold off, okay?
Okay. I'm disappointed.
Anybody like,
I'd like to say I'm disappointed that we can't move meetings with 4 months'
Well, we
notice.
moved 9 meetings last year, and I wasn't going to get in the habit of doing that. That's why. Yes? Yes, ma'am. Sure.
Deb Good, wasn't planning on speaking, but I just wanted to check. I know we had the opportunity to communicate last night, but I just want to get on record the proposal that NextEra has made in regards to the project in Morgan Township. So, you have all received that proposal from NextEra?
We got an email. I
Okay.
don't think we have an official document
But
that I'm aware of, but
yeah.
they did email us.
Well, for the community, I'd like for the community to be aware, because I want them to understand that they have been heard. NextEra heard what the concerns were, and one of which was the sound, and they provided a sound study, I believe. At least we've seen the sound study from down in Cass County showing that the majority of the plots on the NextEra solar project there is at 32 decibels, up to 52 on some of the plots. And as a result of that, NextEra is committing that the decibel level on the property will be no more than 55 decibels. Also promising to committing to repaving and resurfacing any road that is used for construction. And there's a fourth one. What's the fourth one I'm missing? Okay, well, my big one is, and for my little school in Morgan Township of 236 kids and a high school, they're committing $2 million on the day of construction to Morgan Township School. There's a fourth one, and I don't have it off the top of my head.
400 feet or 400
Oh, yes,
acres less?
yes,
400
thank you,
acres
thank you,
less?
Barb. They're going to push the project back another 400 feet away from anyone's property. So I think those were the real concerns that I heard that evening. And between them, I was disappointed that the landowners weren't given an opportunity. We've made a lot of accommodations that are very unusual to other projects that have been done in the area. I know that Barb tried to explain, but we were given 3 minutes. And I know that we went over our 3 minutes, but it would have been nice for the property owners. I think we could have allayed a lot of fears if we would have been able to lay out, even if we could have had some plats, some maps to show. I know for Barb particularly, her ground, her solar panels, her entire area is going to be wrapped with farm ground. So they're not going to see the solar panels as they come along the property. They will be buried behind the crop. I know the Maxwells have moved theirs way back. We have moved ours way back. As a matter of fact, our farm sits, our property, the only people that will even be looking at where the panels will be my husband and myself and our daughter. We had our daughter and her family sit in on the meeting with NextEra, and I'm a little confused at the comment about how quickly they swept in, because we've been working with NextEra since 2019, when I asked them to come and do a World Affairs Conference to speak to my 16 high schools. And I had to approach the commission because they refused to talk to my high school students without having a meeting with the commissioners. And they had been trying to do that for like 2 months, and they said they hadn't been able to. And that was with Hunter Armstrong out of, and Barb, you remember this, because we were working through this when I was trying to do the conference. You weren't on the board, obviously, but I couldn't do I couldn't get them to speak until I had until they met with you. Being a good neighbor, they didn't want to talk to our students until they spoke with you. And I called Jeff Good and asked Jeff, I said, hey, I need a favor. I'm trying to put on this World Affairs Conference for 16 high schools. I need them to come and speak about renewable energy. And he said, Deb, let me see what I can do. Let me talk with the commissioners. And he called me back a week later, and this is in 2019, because my conference was in November of 2019. And to be clear, when I called Jeff, I said, NextEra is in my house talking to us about putting solar panels on our property. And that was in 2019. And I told Jeff in that phone call, he called me back and he said, we have spoken, we are going to meet with them. They can go ahead and speak to your students. They just cannot, they can talk about solar, but they cannot talk about wind. So as a result, NextEra came up, they were my speaker, they financed the entire conference for the 16 high schools, and they've financially sponsored that World Affairs Conference every year since. So I'm a little confused. I mean, we've been working with them for 3 years, and Jeff knew the very day that they were in my house. And that was 3 years ago. And our contract, it took us 2 years to sign our contract. So I'm real confused that this is saying that they just swept in and this all happened so quickly, because it really didn't. It's been a long process.
So they were back in your house, according to you, clear back 4 years ago, cutting the deal.
And talking to us.
When did you actually sign?
It took us 2 years.
2 years. So
We've only signed a year ago.
Right.
We signed a year ago, so however long that took, we signed a year ago.
They formally approached us less than 2 years ago.
March 25th of 20.
I think it was April, is what I was told by Stu
I
Summers.
have the email.
Okay, I'm not
Yeah,
good. If you say it, that's
it's
fine.
March.
I'm just saying it's,
Yeah.
and they had the signed leases already.
No, 2 years. It took 2 years.
Before they came to us, you had a signed lease with them.
I signed this lease last year in ¡22.
So you're saying they
They
had
came to
no
you in
signed leases?
20.
They had no signed leases with us? No, they didn't come to us.
Oh, no. They did come to you on March 25th.
Not according to our RDC.
I have the email, Bob. I have the list of people who were all in attendance.
Debbie, I'm just telling you what I've been told.
I can show you the email that I just looked at.
And that's my whole rub with this, is that these leases were signed before Porter County was brought into the conversation, trying to get a
That's
feel
not true.
from us.
That is not true.
Where would you like to see
They
these?
have been very, in the same way that when Hunter called me and said, Mrs. Good, I would love to come speak to your conference, at your conference, and bring our team, but we can't because we're trying to get a meeting with your commissioners. We've tried for 2 months. We can't get a meeting. And I said, let me see what I can do. This was October of 19. And I called Jeff, the one and only time I've ever called Jeff Good for anything, and said, look, I'm a Rotarian, I'm the youth service chair, I'm trying to put on the 16 high school conference.
But what is that? I understand that, Debbie.
So he knew, and he told me.
How does Jeff go from, you want to talk about renewable energy to high school students to, they're coming here to Porter County to set up?
I told Jeff, when I talked to him, they came to our house this week, just yesterday, and that's not true. They came to our house this week. I asked if they could speak, and Matt DeRose, different Matt, went back to corporate, and Hunter Armstrong at corporate called me and said, we would love to do this, but we cannot do it unless we talk with your commissioners. And all along the way, any communication that I have had with them, that has been their attitude, that has been their approach, is to always consider the commissioners first. And when I talked to Jeff that day, I said to him, and that was the day that they were in my house, I explained that they were in my house, they're looking for landowners to put a lease, there's a solar ordinance in place, which meant that this county was open.
You told Jeff that?
Huh? I told him that.
In 2019? Or what, Was it
regardless,
2019?
and this
It was
whole thing, I mean,
2019, and it
coming-
wasn't signed. It wasn't
the
a-
state, I mean, the state did their stuff back then, which is why we did our ordinance. I know that the Plan Commission definitely talked to some companies. There's a lot of companies out there, and,
But I'm struggling that we're putting NextEra in a bad light, that they didn't do their due diligence, and they have done their due diligence all along. I've been very, very impressed. It's the reason you don't have an application. The only reason you don't have an application is they wanted to hear from you first before they put it in. They've been very respectful
Can I
in
make a
everything that I've
suggestion
communicated.
for, I'm changing the topic a little. If we bring this back to Plan Commission, and landowners have made a lot of concessions that seem to be more palatable, can you let Barb, as our Plan Commission representative, know what those are? And maybe that's something we can work into our ordinance that would make it more palatable for neighbors if there are big zones in between, or
I would
It sounds like
appreciate
you've
that. I
tried
know
really
that that's
hard
what
to
we
make-
tried to do in our 3 minutes, and which is why, when the meeting was over, I came to you and said, the landowner should have been given an opportunity to explain what they were trying
Well,
to
I
do.
just feel like you've
to-
spent the most time trying to figure out what
Correct.
is beneficial for the neighbors, and
De-
that
Debbie,
might be helpful
Debbie, I
for
understand
us.
you. I respect your statement, but I don't agree with, you didn't have the opportunity to speak. The NextEra had 20 minutes
No.
up there. Hold, please. You had 20 minutes to speak before anybody else did. That all could have been brought up at that time. And there could have been more than just you. Last I heard, there was like a dozen different landowners that have, and how many spoke? 2 or 3? Well, that's, whose fault is that?
Well, I don't know that there's a dozen landowners. I don't think there's 12 of us,
No.
so to expect 12 to be there, that would not,
Well, again, NextEra
But I
had
know-
20 minutes to speak. They could have very easily showed maps where this thing was going to go in at, exactly where it was going to go in at. They could have said how many landowners they had under contract. They didn't cover any of it. All of it was, look what the great opportunity it is. And look, Debbie, I know you're good people. I know the Maxwells are good people. And I would hate to be in the position you're in. And I know that entire community down there it's like, it's friend against friend right now.
that meeting tore us apart.
Yeah, well,
And I'm not sure for what reason.
it was boiling. Something had to be done. Something,
But what's going to be done?
I don't know yet. We're still in infancy stages of all this. But I'm not.
I mean, my grandchildren are being attacked.
No. That's
And I'm not sure
unfortunate.
for what.
That's unfortunate. Because like I said, all of you, knowing most of those people in that room, I know you're all good people. And it's just,
Many people didn't show up because they didn't want to be beat up. My husband did not come. I was the fool for coming.
well, I don't think you were a fool for coming.
Oh, no, I would have been there either way. I've learned to be thick-skinned, but I'm not sure what we accomplished.
My hope is whatever is decided here eventually is what's best
Oh, that's my prayer.
for that community.
Well, my prayers,
And
God's will be
slash
done, whatever
the
that is.
county.
Yeah. Yeah.
We
But that's
can't,
all-
I don't have the luxury of setting up here and deciding on things that's only going to benefit a dozen property owners. I've got an entire community down there I have to think of. Thousands of people, actually. And it was very clear in that meeting to me as an elected official that the majority of the people in that room the far majority, did not want this.
Because you let the bullies take control, and they got to speak.
Well,
They should have they should have come to the microphone if they had something to say.
Well,
They would prefer to stand in the back and be bullies.
and you know as well as I do that I tried my best to
I-
control that.
I know that, but we can't succumb to the bullies either.
Oh, well, I'm not going to.
Those of us who I believe are good
We're
people
not gonna
are
be
not going to
bullied.
stand up there and yell and scream
We're
and
not gonna be bullied.
attack people.
Yeah,
I was
yeah.
bullied.
Yeah, well, that's.
You
too-
know I was bullied.
That's too bad. And it's not right. But we're not going to get bullied.
I just want to make sure that NextEra, I believe, has been respectful. The first thing that they did in this county was come and present to the high school students on renewable energy. They spoke about solar. They did not speak about wind at Jeff's request. So I know that in November of 2019, the commissioners were aware that NextEra was here.
Oh.
That's all I wanted to say.
Let me just say this, Debbie. I think you make some very good points, but I want you to keep this in mind. There's a reason NextEra come into this county and started throwing around millions of dollars. Developers don't do that. They just don't. As a matter of fact, it's just the opposite side of the equation is that they ask, we'll come in here, what will you do for us? They don't come in here and throw millions of dollars around. And they were doing it for a reason, because they know they're going to put, or they want to put, an industrial operation in the middle of farmland, and it's an established farming community. That's the only reason they're offering
But that's what
millions of
they do.
dollars to the school.
That's what they do
Well, I know that's what they do.
around the country. That's how we get our energy.
Well, I'm just speaking for myself here. The other
Yeah.
two can jump in here anytime. You don't get my attention doing that.
Doing what?
Throwing around money like that. Shaking money in front of me. That's not going to get my attention. What's going to get my attention is that first I want to hear from where this is going in. Because if you just read our land planning regulations and uses, that doesn't belong down there. It just doesn't.
But then there shouldn't have been a solar ordinance in place.
Oh, how convenient. Yeah, well, maybe we shouldn't have had a state official calling up here and saying, you better get one in, because I'm going to
But
get the...
that's not the landowner's problem.
Well, I don't
There
disagree.
there was an ordinance in
Debbie, I don't
place that
disagree
they
with, I
complied
don't
with.
disagree with that. I don't disagree with that. There's a lot of victims here. There's not just one or two. There's a lot of victims here. I'm just saying if we're going to do this, we have to think about more than just a dozen or so people who own property out there, who may have
So
leases.
can we identify exactly who those people are?
How would I possibly do that?
But you're wanting to recognize those people. How do we identify? To me, those are the people who live across from and are going to be impacted by it, not the people that live in another township, or let's listen to them. Let's identify what their, and what their real needs are, because with the proposal that NextEra just came back with, it does address the concerns that they presented that night. So I don't understand, how do we move forward when they're offering what it is that everybody wanted?
Well, from what I heard that night, there was many, many issues. There wasn't just setback issues or more money to the school district. Throwing more
Or
money at
sound, the
school
big issue was sound.
There was sound, there was environmental issues, then there was just overall changing the entire culture down there, issues. You got to remember, Deb, there's more than just NextEra we got to worry about here.
I understand that.
There's like 4 different other companies knocking on our door.
And I understand that
Once we
there
pull the
needs,
trigger-
I understand there needs to be a cap. I
Yeah.
get that. I do understand that.
And I'm not even sure we can do that.
Yeah.
I'm not even sure at this point if we can do that.
I just really wanted to address, one, the proposal, and two, they didn't just swoop in. For us, it's been a 4-year-long process. And there was an open house that was last year in August, that they brought all their people up from Indianapolis and Florida. I mean, I was there for the meeting. And where were the people then? Why?
Was that announced?
It was announced, and certified letters went out, and there were signs that were on the Expo Center. Anybody driving from Morgan Township to Valpo would have seen all the signs. We went to our neighbors, we talked to our neighbors. We told, I don't know what else you can do. It just, all of a sudden, our executive meeting where Matthew was going to present, and hopefully the landowners would have been able to sit and talk to you peacefully, got canceled, and it ended up in a free-for-all meeting with people yelling and screaming, and we didn't get an opportunity to express civilly what was going on.
No, you're right, and that part of it was disappointing, but you have to admit, there's screaming going on both sides of the aisle. Well,
I didn't hear it.
I watched the video, there was.
but
I watched it
But I
3 times. I
appreciate-
did not hear any of the landowners At the microphone, there might have been a heated comment at the microphone. I'm referencing people who were not at a microphone and were yelling and crazy stuff from the back of the room.
It
But,
was
yes,
very
the-
emotional.
It was emotional, and the one person that got a little heated was baited, and his comment was taken, you had to understand what the comment was referencing, which I'm not going to go into because it's not mine to clarify, but I knew what he was referencing. If people understood it, they would have understood it differently.
Well, as I said, I know you're good people.
I thought so till now.
Well, you are, and it's just, we have to, if we're going to get past this, we're going to have to find a way to do it where at least the majority of us are on board with it.
Yeah.
Because we're talking
Well,
about some,
I know you've got
large
niece and a nephew down in Morgan Township. You know what our school is dealing with. You know we don't have the
and by
money.
the way, I haven't heard a peep out of them, but.
Well, I'm just saying, if we do not have ball fields, our kids are going to other communities far away to to practice their ball games. We need money, and unless somehow you guys come up with some money for our little school, for me, something I need everybody to
In
understand.
all fairness to the Board of Commissioners, it's not our job to come up with the money.
I'm
for
not
each
saying
one
that, but
school.
you have the opportunity to help that $2 million make it to Morgan Township.
Well, I am not going to allow myself in my seat make that decision based on the money that's being thrown
Oh,
at me.
I am not saying that. Just, that's not fair.
Well, it was just said.
For us, and I made this clear at the meeting that we had, for me, first of all, I don't even own the ground. My husband owns the ground with his 4 siblings. That was a family decision. You know what? You do the best with what you can do. Before we signed the contract, I have a landscaping project that NextEra has approved that will be in my backyard because I am building our single-level retirement home across from the farmhouse on that property, and that will be in my backyard. But you know what? I'm not going to see it because I got all this beautiful landscaping that's going to go all along the property there. But we don't get an opportunity to say that. Everybody has their everybody's looking at the dot that they can see. That's all they're looking at. They won't look at the bigger picture.
Because it's very emotional. If you had said it that night, do you think it made any difference to
No.
those people? No, I don't
No,
either.
because most people that night still didn't hear what was
It's
said.
very emotional.
But how do we bring that down? How do we bring some civility and discussion to it?
Well, my job, as I see it, as the president of the Board of Commissioners, is not add to it. I'm not going to feed it.
Well, that meeting definitely did.
That meeting had to happen. We're not going to do stuff behind closed doors. And let me say something. to you.
I am not
Yeah, let me
suggesting
say
the way
something.
the meeting happened.
The discussions that had gone on with NextEra were being done in closed doors, and the public wasn't aware of it.
That is not true.
It is absolutely true.
They had an open house and they met with you. They've met with you many times.
Oh, really? They met with me many times.
Your board? Your planning
They
board?
met with yes, exactly.
Yes.
The planning board.
Right.
It wasn't even the planning board.
Is that behind doors?
Yes,
That's with the county.
Yes, it was with representatives of our RDC and the Plan Commission, behind closed doors, outside of the eye of the public. Now, I'm not saying that there's anything.
Yeah, there's nothing
But I'm saying
nefarious
if-
that went on. I want to make sure that we're very clear on that and that you state
I'm not
that.
suggesting that. What I'm suggesting is that meeting had to go on because the public needed to know about it. They didn't need to know about it when the 10-foot chain link fences started going up, or the solar panels started going in, and a good portion
But remember, the meeting needed to happen. But remember, there was an open house?
Thank you.
NextEra had an open house. But I do agree, the meeting needed to happen with the community, not the way it happened, but it needed to happen somehow more civilly, I don't know. But it has not been, I will not agree that everything that they've done has been behind closed doors. If meeting with the planning commission, and that is a private meeting, or people weren't there or weren't invited, that's not closed doors.
Well, all I'm saying is that I felt the meeting was necessary. That's why I called it, because nothing had happened like that yet. And we needed to hear from the people who live down there.
And my reference wasn't that the meeting shouldn't happen. I suggested that you would have heard from Matthew first with the plan with the landowners. I think that needed to happen before the public meeting so that you were aware of what accommodations and everything that we were going to make, so that those corrections could have been made in that meeting. And it would have dispelled a lot of what everybody said, because you guys still don't know the accommodations that should have been clear to you guys before that meeting happened. And I don't think it would have.
Well, they had 20 minutes to speak up there. If we're still
20
not been
minutes.
made clear of what accommodations they're making.
Barb Patterson tried, and she had it all written, and she got cut off in 3 minutes. Mark Maxwell tried to. I didn't address the accommodation part on my side, but I'm just saying, I think it could have gone better if you would have been aware of what no other county in Indiana is in the position of making the accommodations that we already made, not to mention what NextEra is coming along and now suggesting. So, thank you for the time.
Thank you. Bob?
I thank you that you open this up at the end of your meetings. We do it at a school board meeting too, try to. I guess just a few things that I'd like to.
Can you just please state?
Bob Martin.
Thank you.
Washington Township. All right, whatever was decided, I appreciate that. I looked at the agenda when you began the meeting, because I wanted to see, is there anything related to solar farms? And when I saw number 10 last night, I thought, they're considering something about it. Whatever happens in Morgan Township will affect the entire county. I have proposals in front of me as a farmer. And so I'm glad you're looking at an ordinance to either modify or repeal allowing solar in farm ground. I made my points. I asked questions at the school board meeting. I asked questions at that meeting that are not answered because they're not answerable. All right. Why are we putting it in a cloudy county? Why are I know why it's here. It's here because NIPSCO's going under and all of the infrastructure is here to do it here. As I quit at the end of my 3 minutes, I was about to talk about the corn stalk that's on that emblem. And if we allow uncontrolled solar panels, we better remove the smokestack and put a solar panel right there, because that's what will happen. There's that many companies that are sitting at the door waiting to see. Just my wife walking around, 2 other companies talked to Gene and said they were there checking out how this was going to be handled. So I understand that as commissioners, you're in an awkward position because there's an ordinance that apparently allows what's going on to go on. I was a part of the 2007 master plan for years. 2 and 3 years I spent, avoided doing things with my kids because I'm concerned about the long-range picture of what Porter County looks like when I'm gone and my kids. We have an airport ordinance that actually restricts what I can do with land that's right around the airport that I was willing to sign on to. Why? Because I'm looking beyond myself to what's good for the community, which is what an elected official is supposed to do, and you guys are doing it. You're in an awkward position because there are property rights. I understand that. The questions about why here still need to be asked. Matt Johnson never answered me when I said, why are you doing it in a cloudy county? I mean, the answer is obvious. I already said it. His answer to me at that point was our solar panels reflect both on the top and bottom sides. Check it out on anything about solar. I have solar things that run different things. I'm not anti-solar. I'm going to have solar on my barns within a year or 2, okay? But I'm not in favor of communities encouraging the federal government to throw money at companies to put more federal projects that are under the auspices of a private company that can then go out and offer. I have an offer in front of me for $1,000 an acre for the next 35 years that I haven't signed, okay? And the reason is because I don't think it's the best use to farm ground. I think there's other places to put it. And that's what I heard you as commissioners. I applaud you for the stance. I have no ill feeling towards my neighbors that think this is the best thing to do. That's a debate that has to happen in a person's heart. But as planners, you can decide, is this in the best interest in the future of what's going to go on here in Porter County? And so I applaud you for having approved, having the Plan Commission look at that ordinance and see if solar needs to be restricted to other areas besides letting it happen in ag zone. So anyway, I'm done. You all three heard me the other day. I don't want to be here 20 minutes, but I stayed away for 15 years. I came back last year here when we were starting to approve subdivisions in areas where they shouldn't be. I stayed away 15 years. I'm back. It tells you something. It tells you we're looking at issues that are dear to the heart of people that have been willing to just let it go for 15 years, but are back. So thanks for your time.
Thank you, Bob. Dawn?
You guys want me to stand or you guys? Either.
Whatever you're more comfortable in doing.
All right, I'm Dawn Miller, Valpo. Kind of changing gears here. Have some disturbing stuff that I just learned about. We're having an all-ages drag queen show here at our Expo Center on Saturday, May 20th. And let's see, admission is $10 per person at the door. Kids 12 and under are free. Why are we permitting this? I don't know if you guys have seen the symbol for the Porter County LGBTQ whatever, but this is their symbol. It's a rainbow hand, a big rainbow hand, with a smaller hand inside of it. That screams pedophilia to me. It does a lot of people. Not only are we having an all-ages drag queen show, it's a halfway to Halloween market and drag queen show. I don't see why this is necessary. We also, after this, are supposed to have another one. I believe it is called a Bizarre Bazaar. And that one is in September. Another all-ages drag queen show for our children. Why is this being allowed to happen in our community, in our town? I mean, we already had, the drag queen show at the Memorial Opera House. At least it was 18 and older. I don't agree with them, but, these are things that our children should not be exposed to. I've been told to keep an open mind. Why am I going to keep an open mind to something for grown adults to have our children go to? That's not something that we should be doing. We pride ourselves on having morals and values, so why are we having these here? Why is this allowed? Why don't we have an ordinance put in Valparaiso to keep our children protected from all ages drag queen shows? I reached out to all three commissioners. I received 2 responses back. Commissioner Blaney, I didn't receive a response back from you. I'm not sure why, but I kind of wish you could have engaged with me with this. We've already had a drag queen story hour at our library, which, why can't we just have a female go up there dressed in a princess costume? What's the difference? Or have a clown go up there? Do we really need a man dressing up like a woman to go teach and read to our children? I watched a YouTube video, and it's a drag queen, and he specifically said, why would you take your children to anything like this? He said this himself. He says, we do disgusting, provocative, sexual things, and you want to expose your children to this? Why is this okay? I don't understand. If we're going to continue doing things like this, why not? We should open up a strip club. We should open up an all-ages strip club here
just let everybody come on in, since, I mean, perversion seems to be the new norm. I mean, why not? So, I mean, I think this really needs to stop. And then she comes up, and, I'm sorry, what was her name? Laura Daly comes up and says, the proceeds from the Jimmy Buffett concert are going to the drag queen shows? Are you serious? Oh, she didn't say that?
No.
Okay. I'll look back. I could be wrong, but I
The proceeds from the concert go to the functioning of the expo center.
okay, which funds the drag queen shows.
No, we're not, they're renting the venue from us. We
Okay,
are
so
not
why are
getting-
we allowing them to rent a venue for an all ages? I can see if you want to do the 18 and over, I mean, I don't have to agree with that, but why all ages?
I think we are going to have a discussion.
This is not, Dawn, this isn't the first time they've had their show. The difference is the way that they've advertised it this time. They put a Halloween theme attached to it. They've advertised 13 and younger are in free, and they're selling alcohol on top of it. And we're going to address that. Constitutionally, whether you don't like it, I don't like it, or your neighbor don't like it, they have a right to go out there and do a show if they're willing to pay and follow our rules. You can't tell them no.
Oh, and I don't want to tell them no, but I do think that we should have at least some kind of restriction on age.
Well, we're going to address that, but we have restrictions now. I mean, there can't be any nudity, there can't be any vulgar, where they're, especially with children in the room, they can't do that now. But what we're going to do is we need to have a hard conversation if we're, and for me, it's about the liability. If we're going to operate a venue out there and allow the public to rent it, the general public, and what liability are we taking on if we're allowing liquor to be sold in there at the same time they're offering children at the age of 13 to come in there, and they're also advertising that it's an adult venue. That's what we need to address. But nobody here wants this.
I'm glad you say that, but I'm just wondering why I never got a response back, because I know you have children.
I do
And I
have
would think
children.
that would be important to you to protect them from things like this.
I have not taken my children to a drag show, but if I
Okay.
wanted to and somebody told me I couldn't, I'd be upset. This is a general, it's a venue that we rent out. They have as much right to hold a program there as a church down the road. And people get to choose where they take their children.
That is so wrong, but that's okay, that's your opinion, and that's terrible. I mean, this is pedophilia. This is.
No, it isn't.
It is. That's what drag queens like to do. They love to prey on our children. Why would a drag queen want to perform in front of children? Can you answer that? I'm just curious. Why would any grown man dressing as a woman say, "Oh, I need to go and perform for this kid"? Why do they need to go and sit with our kids and read to them? I'm just curious if you could answer that. I mean, what is the appeal?
I'm not answering.
Dawn,
That's ridiculous.
thank you for your comments. Good day. Anybody else? Yes.
Jean Hardesty from Union Township. Wanting to just speak about the Willow Creek extension. I heard several times that it's 22, I believe, different routes or whatever were chosen. And Willow Creek is number 3. What was number 1? What was number 2? And why was not number 1 or number 2 chosen over number 3?
Those weren't all north-south routes in that area.
They're
Those
not
were
even all Porter County.
yeah, they
No,
were all
they're-
the road projects in the region that NIPSCO's looking at.
Okay.
So number one,
Nerves.
number one and number two was somebody can,
I think the first two.
they weren't even in Porter County.
The projects above the Willow Creek project, I believe, are both in Lake County, and I believe they're both in North Lake County.
Okay, because I know in LaPorte County, they have wanted to do, as far as going through green space, as far as roads. However, the commissioner says, no, we are not doing green space. We're using green space. We are going to use what we have. As far as the Willow Creek, when we did have our question and answer on January 30th at the Expo Center, which I appreciated because it was done much better than the other ones where you just had people standing every which way, and there were 10 people at each section wanting to ask questions.
Thank you.
My last question when I spoke, I said, can anyone tell me the benefits of this road for Union Township? There was not one response. So I ask it again. What is the benefit, or how will this road benefit the residents of Union Township? And again, there was no response. We had a community meeting, and I brought this up, and another person that was there said, oh yeah, and they didn't answer you, did they? Now, I just find it very interesting you are investing this much money in a project that you are starting off that you don't have the benefits for our community other than probably taxes and the upkeep of the road. Plus also too is that what I'm understanding, Portage has a weight limit. So if you're talking trucks, they're going to get to Highway 6 and have to go east or west because they're not going to be able to go straight onto through Portage. So, okay, so that's kind of an issue. So it's like, okay, you're going to get so far. This road is almost the furthest west that you can possibly go in Porter County. I don't believe the people in Sherwood are going to drive down 30 to get on this road to go northeast to Portage, to get on the toll road or to get on the expressway. I don't believe, which I really don't care about Lake County, but I don't believe people in Maryville are going to get off Highway 65, come down 30 to get on this road to get maybe halfway to Portage. So I guess when something doesn't make sense, then it's very difficult to understand. And the one thing that I did not appreciate was your tone when you said people need to accept it. I will never accept
was
this
that said,
decision.
ma'am?
You said that when Commissioner Blaney was like, well, you know, people, shouldn't we kind of wait and let this,
Oh, you mean this meeting?
yeah, you just said it at this meeting. Because she was like, well, you know, don't you think we should kind of let the residents know or whatever? And your response was, well, they already know. They just have to accept it, or they don't want to accept it.
I don't believe
You did.
We'll go back, we
Yes,
record our
please do.
meetings, but we'll go back.
Please do.
Yeah, I'm 99.999% sure I didn't say that the neighbors are just going to have to accept it.
Go back and look.
Oh, I will.
Good, because you did. You even told my son that when you had a meeting with him. You just have to accept it. And the reason we don't
No,
have...
I didn't tell your son that either. And I've never met with your son where I didn't have other people in the room. I think, again, and I've said it in our meeting out there. I can think of 1,000 things I'd rather be spending our time on and our money on than putting that road through that farmland. But sometimes in this job, you've got difficult decisions to make. That road is not being put in to alleviate or attract truck traffic.
What is it, you haven't said what the benefit is.
Why
are you putting the road down?
I think there's plenty of people have talked about what the benefit of that
Nobody
is
told us.
to Union
And
Township.
that was asked at a
Is
meeting.
to alleviate the traffic there coming off of Willow Creek Road onto 700 North and those county roads off of 700 North.
I live there. I travel that road. frequently to get into Portage. Do you know where the traffic is? The traffic is going east and west. The traffic is east and west on 30, the traffic is east and west on 130, and the traffic is east and west on 700. That's where the traffic is.
But they're coming off of county roads
No,
to
they're
get on
not. They
700.
are coming straight down 700 because when you're at the
Well,
intersection,
let me ask you a question.
see where these people.
Let me ask you a question. Why do you think we want to put it in there?
I have no idea. And that's the big question, is that's what doesn't make any sense. I don't know why you want to put it in. But the thing is that, you were talking here about the solar panels, the solar project or whatever, and residents having rights, farmers having rights. And the reason to go back for me saying that I will never accept this, because you know what? You are taking our land. You are taking our land. You are using eminent domain to put in a road that makes no sense. I don't know who's going to take it. If it's not going to be trucks, as I said, no one lives
It's going
there.
to be local traffic, the people who live there.
No. If you are there, no, I'm not going to drive down that way to get to Portage. I'm going to go my old way that takes me like 10 minutes maybe. You know people in Sherwood. Are you going to drive down there to get to Portage? I don't think so. Salt Creek Commons, are they going to drive down to get to that road to go to Portage? Probably not.
So you're suggesting that all of the study that's been done by people with college educations that are to know things like this, traffic engineers, that everybody's wrong. NERC's wrong, Structure Point's wrong, we're wrong.
What I am saying, I'm not questioning anybody's ability. I'm just questioning does it make sense? Because so many people that you talk to say, oh, yeah, well, Willow Creek, we've heard that 20, 25 years ago, it's talked about. I don't think Porter County has changed or Union Township has changed to warrant that to even be in process now. So, but again, like I said, I guess the attitude, you just have to accept it when you just come in. Our farm is 124 years old. We are a Hoosier homestead farm. Does that matter? No. Our Lieutenant Governor, Susan Crouch, article in the paper, so pleased, so proud to award this award to people, looks forward to the state fair every year to just give these awards. You had someone from the agricultural department talks about how hard it is and the work and the determination for it to stay in a family over 100 years. And I did call her, and of course you speak to someone else, and I explained my concern. And I said, she feels happy, she feels proud, all of this, but because then they said, well, she really doesn't have anything to do with this. And I said, I understand. But I wanted to know, at the end of the day, it means something when someone wants to take your land. And that's what it is. So all the ancestors that had come before my husband's family, all the work, all the deciding whenever it was like, okay, this daughter gets this piece of land, Kurt's dad gets this piece of land, he knows that this daughter will sell to this to keep the land together. All of that, because somebody said, oh, you know what, this is a good idea, or this is the best route, or whatever, which I disagree again, too, because the three things that you have always reportedly have said to businesses have to relocate, all right? But farming is a business. For 124 years, we have been part of Indiana's agricultural economy. No mention of that. None. You know what we are? We are a parcel. Nothing about farmland. We are a parcel. 124-year-old parcel of land. The second thing is that you say, oh, well, no houses have to be moved. All right? But at our meeting, the gentleman said where the bridge is going to be, he's not even going to be able to open his garage door. So the value of these homes, do you think that they're going to be up there? I'm not thinking so. And then the third and one of the most disturbing things, it says that the emergency personnel chose this as the best route. Nobody has any information out there about that because we've been trying to find out who has said this. You know, it was, I can't even remember what his name is, the vice president said surveys had been sent out. So I called Scott Farrell, that's the number to call. Scott, what about this survey? Well, there was never a survey. Oh, there was never a survey. Well, that's good because Chris Murphy said, oh yeah, the sheriff's department, the ambulance service, the fire department. All right, nobody knows any of this thing. And then my son Andrew continues to pursue it because we come from a firefighter family. My dad, assistant chief of South Haven, my uncle, chief of South Haven. Andrew was a firefighter as long as he could with work permitting, you know, in Union Township. And then to have this statement, and it's always there, every presentation. 2 businesses, no houses, emergency personnel. And then Andrew sent it to you, what response he got from Scott Farrell, that supposedly back in early 2020, these people had been notified. Some names were not even there, it just said fire chief. Then it was the Porter County Sheriff, Joe Reynolds. Then I think there was one other name that was on there. The police chief of Portage. But then down below, what he writes, to date, no one has responded. So how can this then be put out? Because you know what, if I'm like wishy-washy on the fence and I'm like, well, emergency personnel put this out, maybe that is the best route. But how true is that statement that continually is up there?
I don't disagree with that.
So
That's why since the first year that when I became board president, that I told, I think Mr. Thompson's still sitting back there, told him to tap the brakes on the entire project until we do some due diligence on our end.
say it
That
again?
is, to tap the brakes on the project until we do our due diligence on our end.
But I thought you
First
just
is-
granted him to do something on this proposed project.
Is to do the overlay. Is to do the overlay,
Of-
which was requested by the public that we do. Because we had a public meeting.
We did.
Right. And during that public meeting, it was asked that we do an overlay, a study.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Because everybody was saying, why was there
Right.
not a comprehensive study?
And in regard
before
to-
this was even done?
Right, right. And I agree, totally agree with you. That should have been done first. And what's going to get done now?
So the project you are saying is still on hold?
Well, yeah, look, nothing's, and that's why, when you said that, you're just going to have to, I said that you're just going to have to accept it. What, I'm not going to say that.
You told it
I wouldn't have
this-
said that.
You told Commissioner Blaney when she was speaking.
Well, why would I say that when no decision's been made?
I don't
Why would
know.
I say that when I'm okaying $150, maybe $200,000 overlay study
don't
that
know.
may change everything?
I don't know.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Don't know. But go back and look at the,
And the other thing, Mr. Hardesty, is that we are in regard to the public safety segment of all that the Structure Point had reached out to different agencies, and what had come back is the vast majority never got back with them, including the Union Township Fire Department. They did not answer that survey. So we're going to rewind, we're going to resubmit, and we're going to get answers.
that would be amazing. That would be amazing. But like I said, Scott said there was no survey. So there was one response. It was third-party response as far as to do. But you know what? I just called and talked to Scott 2 days ago. He called me back because we've been playing phone tag.
Scott.
Farrell. Okay, so anyway, so when we were talking, I said something about repeatedly, again, how can you make this statement, which I consider false representation, if no one has responded for that to be up there? I believe that's false
yeah,
representation. Okay, but anyway, so this is what he said, though. He goes, "We did not use that in our decision-making." That is Scott's words. So I said, all right, you didn't use that. That was not part of the deciding factor. So I said, was the issue of two businesses relocating, was that a decision maker? Yes. No homes have to be removed, was that a deciding factor? Yes. But public safety? The public safety of the people of Union Township then was not part of it?
Well, let's define the public safety issue. You seem to
Okay.
be concerned about that. The study they're talking about is to whether or not it would encourage or increase response times of
Yes.
first responders.
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
that's what we're talking about.
That's for the fire department, but we're also talking about the Porter County Sheriff, who is also, that's their jurisdiction. And for them to go clear across the county for a road that I'm not sure who's going to be on this road, other than farmers, which there's a huge question there, is that, because if anybody has been,
You mean if we were to put a new road in there, the only people to be on there is farmers?
farmers will be on that road. I mean, I don't know who else, like I said, I don't know of anybody that's going to travel all the way that far west to go northeast.
Well, you know what? If you end up being right,
You get a
the
private
engineers
road.
that have been responsible for putting all this together should never, they should just turn in their pins.
Well, you know what, I guess as far as engineers too, is I'm thinking of the current Willow Creek that floods all the time, and you don't know that until you get there and it says road closed.
County government didn't design the
Well,
project.
I'm just saying. But as far as, so like, yeah, public safety, is it, I don't know. All I know is, again,
Well,
I don't
I want
accept
you to
it.
understand, I totally get where you're coming from. I'm seventh generation here.
yeah,
My
okay.
wife comes from a centennial farm in Lake County, in southern Lake County. I get where you're coming
Okay.
from. But, again, I don't have the luxury of sitting up here, or we don't, and just, we have to do what's for the what we feel is for the betterment of the entire county. Not just, again, I can think of 1,000 things I would rather do than spend money on that road.
So
And
when you're
put that road through farms like yours.
all right.
I would much rather, if I could come up with a better idea, or if there was a better idea out there, we'd be looking at it.
If that's the case, then the population is not where you're putting this road. The population is all east in Porter County. So if you are looking to accommodate the most people, it is not the furthest west that you can possibly go when the next road over is county line. Again, if you're out that way, it's precious farmland. And as people have said, they have moved out there because that's the community they want to live in. They don't want to look out and see traffic or whatever, or who knows who's going to be
I
there.
don't disagree. I'm just sitting here thinking the irony between our conversation, the conversation that went on about the solar panels.
Well, it is. I mean, it is different because you've got people who said, oh, yeah, property owners should have rights. We don't have rights.
Oh, you have rights.
No, we don't.
Yes, you
You're
do.
taking our land.
No, you have rights.
Oh, I do. So I can say, no, you can't come through our field.
Well, you didn't ask me whether or not it's going to take your land.
It's, pretty much you indicated that.
No, I don't think I did.
Okay, that I will remember.
I've set up here for,
That I will remember.
that's right, I've set up here for nearly 16 years.
Okay?
I've never condemned anybody's land.
Well, you certainly are doing it when you're taking Willow Creeks to 30. Not only our farm,
That condemnation has not come up in the conversation,
what about eminent domain?
or intimate domain. It's not come up in the conversation.
So then how are you
What
putting
has
this
been the
road?
conversation is we need infrastructure there to move traffic. That has been the conversation. That's why we've hired the engineers. That's why we've put in for grants to determine if that, what's the best process in doing that. They're starting to finalize that. We're starting to get a handle on it. Now, nobody's come in front of me and said, hey, Biggs, we need to take that farmer's land.
Well, how are you going to get through? How are you
Well,
going to
you
put the
might
road
be-
through?
You might be surprised what I say.
Well,
I've sit up here a long time and I've never done that.
are you asking me if you can come through our farm?
No more than I'm asking you if it hit your thumb with a hammer, whether or not it hurt.
Well,
No,
I'm just
I know you're
saying-
going to say you don't want me through.
I'm just saying, you said, we have rights. Well, then my right, and I'm.
You do have rights, as far as I'm concerned.
All right, then no, you cannot come through our field.
A pretty good guess. Talking to you and Andy, or Andrew.
Exactly. No, you cannot come through our field. So, no,
all right.
and everybody has heard it.
All right,
You have been told you cannot come through our field.
okay.
So the road
Good
stops.
to know.
The
Good.
road stops, it's,
Good to know. That's pretty powerful.
the road stops at 450
That's pretty powerful.
for however far you want to take it or whatever, And the thing, I guess, the thing that bothers me the most, this is the only place where my husband has lived. Other than 2 years of being in the Army during Vietnam, this is his home. This is where he was born. This is where he was raised. He grew up. He did not even go away to college because of the farm. He went to the extension to get his degree. 75 years, so take off 2. Okay, so 73 years. This is where my husband has been. And even as a young person, always farming, always doing something with the farm.
I know.
But you know what? Do you know how many mornings I see him sitting with his cup of coffee, knowing what is going to happen to the farm? Do you know the mental thing that happens to a person who knows that they have no control? It's in somebody else's hand to just take it away. We are not a large farm. What you are proposing to do and the way it divides the farm, it may not be profitable for us to continue.
Well, you may be surprised to know that if we can't, I feel, if we can't make a case to you and the other property owners as to why we need to go through there, and you're willing to let us go through there, that's where I stop. I'm not going to take your land.
So,
I don't care who knows it.
All right. So the road kind of will end at a certain road because it's not coming through our land. There will be no bridge.
I don't know, there could be
No, we have- no,
360-degree angles to it because we're
There's a
not.
bridge. There's a bridge. So you can imagine how far back this bridge is even going to start going across our field to go over a road and 2 railroad tracks that are pretty high up.
Well, Mrs. Hardesty, any other 2 commissioners can speak for themselves, but I think it's going to be a very difficult decision by the Board of Commissioners to condemn property.
Okay, so I can go home and I can tell Kurt and Andrew that if
You can tell-
if we say no, we're good.
Tell them I said aye.
Correct. No. I'm going to tell them that you said,
It's all, we're recorded.
I know you recorded, so I will be here again saying, remember what you said. You said you would not condemn our land.
Who I am.
No
Yep.
eminent domain.
Yep.
That if I say no.
Never
we
done
say
it,
no,
ain't going to start now.
everybody, did you hear that? You recorded it? All right. Well, thank you.
You're welcome. Hi.
Hello.
State your name, please.
My name is Linda Tomzak, and I didn't come here prepared to speak. Bob Martin said he's back after 15 years. I haven't been here for 70 years. And That's not something I'm proud of. I have a great respect for all the people who have gotten up here and shared their hearts and been willing to speak up. And I also have respect for you folks for serving us and for everything that
We get
you
paid
do.
big bucks. for it.
Anyway, just want to say thank you. I also want to say that I am so thankful to be an American and to have the freedoms that we have. And to have the freedom to be, to disagree. But like people have spoken here today, they're concerned about what's ahead. And my heart is breaking for the children of our county, of our country, as I see the degradation and of our values, of our morals. And I'm realizing that it's going to take more than just to be responsible citizen, than just giving blood or working in the polls, that we got to be willing to take a stand. So I just am taking a stand today to speak out against this drag queen thing that's at the Expo Center. And I recognize fully that these people they could have a right, but when it comes to letting children 12 and under to go into something like that free, it's an outrage. And I want to know, as a citizen, I want to know what right do I have to speak up? Can I stand in the parking lot with a sign? What can we do to express our disagreement with this, even as it goes forward? Can you give me an answer to that?
I think partially you're doing it right now. I know there's an awful lot of people like you out there.
But how can we make I'm one voice in this little group, but how can we make our voice heard? How can we make our voice heard in the community?
Well, I'm not going to suggest you go out and protest in front of that building when that's going on. I think that has just the potential of being ugly, as they say. But what you're doing right now is a lot. You're doing very well. And we are going to amend our regulations as to what we're going to allow out there. Now, I don't know how the vote will end up on it, but
how the what? The board?
Our regulations for the use of those buildings out there. Because I agree with many of the people, or some of the people that have spoken today. We have no business operating an event like, a rental at the Expo Center. If we're going to allow adult-themed programs to go out there that are allowed to advertise, children under the age of 13 are admitted while they're selling alcohol, and there's no mention that they even had to be accompanied by an adult.
Correct.
Well, that's going to change.
Linda, can I just assure you that the organizer is willing to work with us? We've had conversations with them already, and we're going to do whatever we can to help change the messaging with regard to this event.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, we are.
Oh, yeah, you're allowed.
You don't need a permit, no right away.
I don't believe you need, do you need a permit?
We have a process.
Yeah, we have process, oh, there you go.
Just like, that's why we hear them that's why we heard to take the road today for the run. That's why we hear the ones at the courthouse square for whatever du jour protest is happening. We hear them almost every single meeting. So yes, we have a process.
What's the process? What is the process?
Process is see Kathy Merle, and she's got the information to hand out to fill it out.
She'll give you the forms. You fill them out and bring them back to us. And then we approve them in a meeting.
We have the right to peacefully protest, we have the right to peacefully assemble,
Yes.
so, just so you know. We have the right to do that peacefully.
And we have a right to reasonably have restrictions on it.
That's fine. I understand that.
That's why there's a process.
Okay?
Okay,
Thank you. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I'm getting hungry, just so you know.
I know. I promise I won't argue. Okay, my name is Susan Theory, and my husband Jack and I have had Theory Movers for about 45 years. And in that business, we have used so many of the young men from the Maureen House and from the Respite House. And so we've had them into our home, and we have learned to love them. Well, they have had such terrible childhoods and problems. And I find it so ironic that you have been talking about having now a social worker to go along with the police and wanting to give money to help young people have good lives and rebuild their lives. But at the same time, you're talking about allowing children to watch a drag show and the sensuality that they expose. And I would like to ask you, each one, before you reconsider or make a decision, I would ask you to find a way to watch one of their drag shows where they do things that I cannot even describe to you. And they have little children sitting around, and they come right up to the children, and they shake, and they do all kinds of obscene things. And the children see them, and they have this sensual music playing. And it is evil. And I beg you to have the courage to watch what they want to do to our children. And I appreciate everything you're doing, that you're listening. And we will be praying for you, because you will answer for the decision that you make.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi. Did we get her name, the last lady?
Her name's Sue Theory.
Okay.
She did give us her name. So, my name is Alana Burke, and I will just say a few brief things because I did not come prepared either, but I'm very concerned as a mother and a grandmother about the drag queen presence at the Expo Center and the library. And the cry of my heart is, who is going to stand for the children? Because even though parents may be allowed to take their children, and I understand that, but I'm just saying, who's going to step in and protect our children? And all along the way, you can't buy cigarettes till you're 18 and yada, and we've lowered all of those things too. But Porter County is known for being a healthy place and a farm community, and their 4-H is so big here. So many people support 4-H, and the Expo Center is pretty much known now as the fairgrounds and for a community for 4-H and all kinds of good things. So why is it that the money, it's the money, we need the money here, that we're going to lower our standard and have these people come in? And I agree with everything Sue said. She put it very, I don't want to restate it because she put it very well.
let me be clear on that. The money has nothing to do with it.
So,
It's
so
what
then,
is allowed constitutionally.
so we have no rights then as?
We have some rights, but we can't trample on other people's rights while flexing ours. That's where, look, as long as we're going to be in the business of renting something like the Expo Center out, we're going to have this problem. It's just the changing world we live in, unfortunately.
Okay.
10 years ago, we would have never had this conversation. But
Right.
this is the reality we live in today. And as long as we rent those buildings out, this can happen. And it doesn't mean, though, and this is, I want to make this clear, it doesn't mean we can't have rules that is not going to, is going to discourage the intermixing of children with adult-themed events. That I believe that we can address, and we're going to address it.
Okay.
But this, as I stated, they were here before. I think it's just like, I was told that their 4th year. This is the first year that they've done this children's theme, Halloween, alcohol, you're come-in free thing. And it caught everybody off guard. They did me.
By the way, just don't think this is the first time we're having this conversation, because believe me, we've had many conversations about this and what we can legally do. I want you to realize that we are hearing you.
Yeah.
And we are taking this seriously.
So we need to figure out how we can work together then to make it better.
We're
Or
going to
not at all.
We're going to do what the law allows us to do.
And what about the library? Because that's a public place that
I
isn't
have no
really.
say on the library.
We don't have a say in the library, but I did speak with someone on the board yesterday and said that's not a thing anymore.
Oh, but the Opera House, because it's rented out, that
Well,
falls
we're
into the
talking
same.
about the expo right
Yeah,
now.
right, okay. All right. All right.
Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you. You did a good job, too, by the way. Is that it, folks? Well, thank you very much. Have a great afternoon.